$5 million. She finally won the lottery, only to be crushed by a suicidal jumper moments later. Refusing to accept this, she rampaged through the underworld, twisting the guards' long tongues into knots. Her wails were so thunderous that the king of the underworld's palace nearly crumbled into dust. The ancient king was desperate to be rid of her, promising a royal reincarnation filled with luxury. She'd be reborn as a princess, destined for a life of glittering gold and endless wealth. "Will I have a loving family? Will everyone adore me?" the girl asked with hope in her eyes. The king forced a fake smile, lying just to get this little troublemaker out of his sight. Tossing the book of fate, he shouted, "Unjust soul 99, it's time for your next life." But Jojo opened her eyes to a freezing palace where her own brother was locked in a cell. Her mother was a powerless outcast, and her grandparents had been exiled for high treason. Talk about a tragic starter pack. Seconds into her life, she was forced to cross-dress as a boy. "I hate you, old king," Jojo seethed, realizing her promised luxury was a total scam. No wealth, no love, just misery. Jojo screamed internally, wishing for the whole world to end. 5 years passed in starvation and neglect. She hadn't even met her so-called father yet. She planned to just rot away, until she accidentally offended the arrogant princess Anyang. All because Guju refused to kneel, the spoiled brat flew into a predictable royal rage. Wait, Anyang? Guju realized she was trapped inside the novel, The 1,000-Year Empress. Princess Anyang was the legendary heroine, the girl boss, destined to unite the world. Their tyrant father had no daughters, so he treated this niece like his own precious jewel. Anyang was betrothed to the crown prince, set to rule as the Empress of the South. She was the ultimate protagonist, while Guju was just an unacknowledged royal mistake. In the original plot, Guju was mere cannon fodder, fated to be beaten to death today. But Guju wasn't going down without a fight. She refused to accept such a pathetic end. Seeing Guju's silence, Anyang lunged forward, claws out, aiming to scratch the little prince's face. "Get away from me!" Jojo barked, instinctively blocking the spoiled brat's vicious attack. Anyang immediately switched to victim mode, weeping as the terrifying tyrant emperor approached them. "Uncle Emperor, he tried to attack me," she wailed, playing the villain's card perfectly. As Guju stood frozen, the legendary tyrant emperor loomed over her, radiating a deadly, icy aura. Without a single question, he ordered Guju's execution and turned to comfort the manipulative liar. "Don't cry, my little kitten," he cooed, while Anyang wiped her nose on his royal robes. Then, the tyrant shot Guju a glare so cold, it nearly made her wet her diapers. Is he really going to kill his own cub without a trial? Even tigers aren't this cruel. Suddenly, the tyrant emperor's face shifted. A strange, unheard voice had echoed in his mind. He heard the boy's thoughts clearly, yet the child's lips hadn't moved an inch. Intrigued, the emperor asked about the boy's status. The 18th prince, son of a lowly concubine. The emperor, who notoriously preferred daughters over sons, didn't even hesitate for a second. "Drag him away and beat him to death," he commanded. Jojo's heart burned with pure indignation. "Anyang is a liar. She's just jealous because I'm way cuter than her," Jojo screamed internally. "My tyrant dad is an idiot. No wonder this kingdom falls in 10 years. The fate of the nation." Hearing this, the emperor's icy composure completely shattered. Jojo was stunned. Had the deadbeat dad actually found a shred of mercy in his heart? He questioned Anyang about the quote-unquote stolen item. Panicked, she tossed her bracelet into the bushes. "He threw it there!" she cried. But Guju saw right through the pathetic, low IQ act. "What an absolute moron," Guju sneered. Only a blind, heartless tyrant would believe her. Suddenly, the emperor's voice boomed. "Enough! I can hear every word you're thinking." Fury erupted in the sovereign's soul. His face burned crimson as he demanded the truth from Fungai. Fungai's round face contorted with pure terror. She collapsed, begging for a mercy the emperor would not grant. He banished her to the Grand Empress for strict re-education. Hearing this, Fungai's world crumbled into tears. Guju watched the drama, amused. Had this heartless tyrant finally grown a soul, or just gotten smarter? Desperate, Fungi clung to noble consort Jang's robes. "Auntie, please, save me!" she wailed in desperation. Jang was panicked. The girl was her only ticket to favor. Losing her meant losing the emperor's attention. She shamelessly begged for her niece's forgiveness. "Silence!" the emperor roared, cutting through her pathetic pleas. He blamed her for the girl's lack of discipline. Reflect on your failures in solitary confinement. Guju tried to slip away unnoticed, but a murderous aura froze her solid. The tyrant's eyes found her. She trembled, nearly wetting herself under that predatory gaze. Why was he looking at her so strangely now? Does he still plan to end my life? I don't want to die. The emperor leaned down closer. He examined Guju's face, rosy cheeks and innocent eyes. A surprisingly adorable child, far cuter than any prince. He outshone all 17 of his brothers. A shame he isn't a girl, the emperor sighed with regret. He ordered eunuch Fuan to escort Guju back home safely. Guju blinked, stunned by this sudden change of heart. Perhaps this tyrant had a sliver of humanity after all? Her mind began to race with bitter thoughts. If this deadbeat father had been wise earlier, Mother wouldn't be suffering in the cold palace right now. But he's still a fool. Soon the bridge he crosses will shatter and crush his imperial legs. Guju considered warning him, then hesitated. This man never cared for us. Why should I save his life? Let him suffer, she thought, as Fuan led her back to the desolate cold palace. Yet, guilt lingered. Finally, she whispered a cryptic warning to the eunuch. When you reach the garden lake, stop and wait. Wait for a cup of tea's time before crossing that bridge. The emperor pondered this strange message later. That little brat predicted the fall of the Western kingdoms in 10 years. It sounded like sheer madness. But the warning about my legs, it was terrifyingly specific. Just then, eunuch Fuan reappeared in haste. Seeing the emperor approaching the lake, Fuan remembered the child's plea and rushed forward to block him. Your Majesty, please, let us enjoy a cup of tea here first. The emperor understood the hidden meaning. The brat had sent a warning. Perhaps the boy had a conscience after all. He coughed, feigning arrogance. He ordered tea, eyes fixed on the bridge. 5 minutes crawled by, yet the stone structure remained still. Impatience flared. Maybe the child's foresight was nothing more than a lucky guess or a childish lie. A maid arrived to summon him for urgent state affairs. But as the emperor stood to depart, a thunderous boom shook the earth. Behind him, the massive bridge had completely disintegrated into the water. The emperor froze, realizing he would have been crushed. The child's prophecy was hauntingly accurate and true. A broken leg would have been the least of it. Chaos would have swallowed his entire empire. This child possesses the eyes of a god. He is a divine treasure of the nation. Overjoyed, the emperor dismissed his officials and summoned the national master. He hurried toward the cold palace. Guju, the little miracle, was just wandering back home. Concubine Li rushed out, her face wet with tears. She pulled Guju into a frantic embrace. Her heart was shattered by the fear of losing another. Her eldest son had vanished into the imperial prison long ago. Guju was now her only light. The child used her chubby hands to wipe her mother's tears. She smiled with a wisdom beyond years. Don't cry, Mommy. When I grow up, I'll protect you and give you a beautiful life. She knew the time to save her brother wasn't right yet. Concubine Li held her close, moved. I don't need riches, my love. I only want you to be safe from the palace's cruelty. Guju felt a surge of indignation. My deadbeat father must be blind to ignore such a woman. Concubine Li could hear every thought. Her heart ached for the heavy secrets this tiny child carried alone. Suddenly, a servant girl burst into the room, gasping for breath. He's here! The emperor has arrived! Concubine Li panicked as if a mortal enemy approached. Banished to the cold palace for 5 years, he never visited. Something was definitely wrong. She tried to hide Guju, but the girl smiled. "Don't worry, Mama. Maybe Father missed us." Concubine Li sighed at the impossible dream. Then the tyrant emperor strode in with overwhelming power. His aura was suffocating. Yet he stopped, visibly stunned by the decaying ruins of the palace. "This is no place for humans," he muttered. Terrified, Concubine Li shielded Guju behind her. "Your servant greets the emperor," she stammered. To her shock, the tyrant actually smiled back. Unlike the gaudy palace beauties, her simple, plain elegance held a unique and captivating charm. He took her hand gently. "No more formalities. Sit." A long, silent tea time then followed. Though silent, his mind raced. This child saved my life. She deserves a magnificent reward today. But if she finds out I hear her thoughts, will she stop her predictions? He hesitated. As the silence grew heavy, the emperor finally found a way to keep Guju close. Clearing his throat, he spoke. "Concubine Li, I shall reopen the case of your alleged treason. Furthermore, for raising the 18th prince so well, you may leave this desolate palace at last. You are free." Stunned and overjoyed, tears of gratitude welled in Concubine Li's eyes. "I thank your majesty for your grace." Meanwhile, Guju pouted. "So, my deadbeat dad finally woke up? Keep this up and I might like you." The arrogant emperor scoffed. He didn't need her affection. But his coldness made Guju feel wronged. Of course he doesn't care. What was I thinking? Hearing her sadness, a pang of guilt pierced his heart. Suddenly, Eunuch Fuan rushed forward. "Your Majesty, the ministers are calling. It's an urgent emergency." The emperor rose instantly to leave. With a wave, he granted them the Autumn Water residence, the best location in the entire palace. He even ordered Fuan to assist their move. But Guju's eyes narrowed as a vision flashed. Dad's heading to war. But little does he know, our army is walking into a trap. 30,000 soldiers will perish. The defeat will be so devastating, the empire will fall. Land lost and reparations. It's a disaster. The emperor froze, his blood running cold with horror. "Your Majesty, we must hurry," Fuan urged. But the emperor stubbornly sat back down again. "I'm thirsty. I'll have more tea." He strained to hear more, desperate for the reason why. He waited for a clue, but Guju just looked at him with sheer confusion and annoyance. "Is my dad broken? Why that weird look again?" "Mama, I'm sleepy. I want a nap." The emperor was speechless. The nation is facing a crisis, and you just want to sleep? But he wouldn't leave. Even after she drifted off, he stayed by her side, watching intently. To hear her thoughts, the mighty ruler actually tried to keep the sleeping child awake. "Wake up, brat," he urged. Her terrified mother finally risked her life to stop him. "Your Majesty, please don't torment her." He offered a sheepish, awkward smile in response. He insisted on sleeping beside her. The servants stared, convinced their emperor had lost his mind. Cradling the drooling girl, he dismissed everyone. Once she slept deeply, he whispered his plea. "Guju, how do we save our land?" Her internal grumbling finally revealed the shocking truth. "It's the spy! Concubine Wei faked her pregnancy just to steal secrets from the royal study. If Dad feeds her fake intel, we could trap them and win a legendary victory instead." As Guju's tiny fist flailed, the emperor felt a surge of pride. He actually shed tears. How did I deserve such a genius child? Overjoyed, he planted a loud kiss on her cheek. He left with a triumphant grin. With the giant fly gone, Guju finally slept in peace. The next day, Fuan arrived to help them move. Concubine Li requested her loyal nanny Gui. Now that she held the emperor's favor, Fuan was more than happy to obey her wishes, consented to it all. Little Guju beamed with joy, for throughout 5 years in that desolate palace, only Nanny Gui had shown her true warmth. Hand in hand, the trio stepped beyond those frozen walls toward a bright new destiny, leaving the bitter, envious glares of the maids behind. 7 days later, within the imperial study, the emperor received a triumphant report from the front. Gratitude filled him for trusting Guju. After years of bloody conflict with the Southern Kingdom, this was their first absolute crushing victory. Then, even more glorious news arrived from the battlefield. The defeated Southern Kingdom was pleading for peace. "Your Majesty is truly divine." The general's sycophantic flattery had barely ceased before the emperor rushed toward the Autumn Water residence, only to be intercepted by the grave national master, who claimed an urgent matter demanded his ears. Bound by duty, the emperor paused to hear the heavy words. The master looked up and whispered, "My time has come to die." The emperor recoiled. "Absurd! Such ill omens. Speak of something else." But the master sought only to offer a final, desperate warning. "I have read the stars and seen a cataclysm coming for our kingdom in 10 years. Yet a single spark of hope remains. Our salvation lies with the 18th prince. No matter what trials come, I beg you to trust him implicitly. Guard the 18th prince's life at all costs." The emperor nodded, branding the words into his soul. He paused before posing one final aching question. "Is it my fate to never be blessed with a daughter?" The master remained silent, merely whispering, "Heaven's secrets are not for mortal ears." Then, his spirit fled his body. By dawn, the kingdom mourned the master's passing. The emperor wondered if it was old age or divine retribution. Distraught by the weight of those secrets, he sought solace at the Autumn Water residence to find his family. "His Imperial Majesty has arrived." Concubine Li and little Guju knelt low in a graceful, respectful greeting. Guju peered up at her father's grim expression. "Wait, we won the war. Why does Dad look so miserable? Did something terrible happen?" Then she remembered. The national master was dead. At the mention of that name, the emperor's eyes flashed with sudden intensity. He gripped Guju's tiny shoulders, his voice trembling with a strange energy. "His death was so abrupt. What could it mean?" Guju huffed internally. His clock just ran out, obviously. Hearing her thoughts, the emperor beamed like a joyful child. In his euphoria, he smothered Guju with 99 kisses. Guju sat frozen in absolute shock. "An old man just kissed me. My innocence, it's gone forever." After that, without warning, he scooped her up and delivered 99 more kisses, leaving the poor girl utterly dazed and bewildered. Watching on, Concubine Li found Guju's stunned face too adorable to resist and joined the chaotic kissing frenzy. Guju's face went numb. "This is a world of pure suffering," she lamented. "My parents have such bizarre impulses. They just attack with affection whenever they please." Yet, a tiny flame of warmth flickered deep within her heart. In her past life, she was a lonely orphan. Now, for the first time, she felt truly, unconditionally loved. As the emperor and Li sensed her tragic past, their hearts broke with overwhelming pity. They held her close, vowing to drown her in affection. For her legendary service, the emperor bestowed upon her a mountain of treasures. But Guju only desired beautiful, frilly dresses, a simple wish that her mother immediately and sternly rejected. Their status remained precarious. With her grandparents in exile and treason still staining their name, safety came first. Suddenly, Nanny Gui entered, seeking instructions for the feast to welcome the arriving Qing. Guju's blood ran cold. Qing? She's a pawn of Consort Zhang and Fun Kaihui. Why is she here now? She recalled the original story. Qing always preys on newly favored concubines, moving in only to strike them down. Those women always meet a mysterious, tragic end. If she enters our home, Mom and I are doomed. Concubine Li, catching Guju's frantic thoughts, turned cold. She abruptly ordered Nanny Gui to halt all special preparations. Nanny Gui blinked in confusion. The lavish banquet orders were suddenly revoked. Li stroked Guju's hair with resolve. She saw through Qing's mask of hypocrisy. That woman had turned a blind eye to their suffering before. Now that they were favored, she came crawling back. Nanny Gui exhaled a long-held breath of pure relief. "I am overjoyed that your ladyship finally sees the truth." The next morning, a scheming concubine Qing departed. As she marched toward the Autumn Water residence, she vowed to her master, Fun Kaiwi, to finish them. She would infiltrate their home and ensure concubine Li and her child never saw another dawn. A deadly plot. A smirk danced on her lips as the scheme unfolded. Suddenly, concubine Qing swept into the Autumn Water Pavilion wearing a mask of false sweetness. "Dearest sister, I've missed you." Concubine Li remained seated, her gaze icy. "Enter then, and find a chair." This cold reception left Qing reeling with shock. She had anticipated tears and desperate pleas for help. Trembling with nerves, she took her seat. Her eyes landed on Guju, and she lunged to grab the child, terrifying the poor little girl. "Mama, help!" Concubine Li's hand shot out like a serpent, seizing Qing's wrist in a death grip. She dislikes strangers. A servant was ordered to pour tea as tension mounted. Sipping the brew, Qing surveyed the room with venomous envy. "Your palace is quite the treasure, isn't it? Quite unlike my pathetic, crumbling little jade pavilion." Li didn't blink, suggesting the Department of Household Affairs handle the repairs. Instantly, Qing dissolved into crocodile tears. "Those corrupt servants only serve the powerful. They've completely abandoned a forgotten soul like me." But Li wasn't buying the performance. She gestured pointedly at her visitor's sleeve. "That's rare shoe brocade. Are you certain you're being ignored?" Qing's excuses withered instantly. Desperate, she claimed her heart longed for their old bond and begged to move in. Li didn't hesitate, slicing through the lies to expose the viper's true, poisonous intent. Flustered, Qing stammered out a weak farewell, secretly praying for a polite invitation to stay. Instead, Li's voice rang out, "Get out." Qing's rage burned white-hot, her teeth grinding in silent fury as she retreated. With the snake banished, Guju cheered. Then, Nanny Guy whispered that the 10th and 11th princes were lingering outside, too terrified to enter. Li's order was sharp and final. Send them away. Guju's mind raced. Why was Mama so heartless toward these two? They were my 13th brother's most loyal allies. When tragedy struck, they sacrificed everything, their very lives, to save him. Yet, Mama's disdain had followed them to their graves. Heart heavy, Guju grabbed Li's sleeve, silently pleading for her to open the doors to her brothers. Li froze as her daughter's inner voice echoed in her mind. She never imagined the 10th and 11th princes were so noble-hearted. Her long, bitter years in the cold palace had taught her the rarity of true loyalty. So she finally relented. Upon entering, the princes bowed low, swearing to find a way to rescue their 13th brother. Peeking out, Guju sensed their trembling nerves. They expected a cold dismissal after their greetings, but were stunned when Li offered them tea. The sudden kindness nearly made their spirits flee their bodies. They were braced for a lashing, not hospitality. Seeing their terror, Li reached out, taking their hands to sincerely apologize for the years of misplaced resentment. The wise 10th prince bowed his head. "We were merely arrogant children who tested your patience, your ladyship. We shall never fail you again." Witnessing the reconciliation, Guju strutted forward to join the family circle. One look at them and her breath caught. She was instantly smitten by her two dashing god-tier brothers. Happiness radiated from her soul. The princes were jolted to hear her thoughts, but kept silent to shield her. They feared others would label her a monster. A bond formed instantly. Soon, the two were playfully squabbling over who got to pamper the precious little Guju. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The tyrant emperor loomed in the doorway, instantly killing the joy of the moment. He ruthlessly plucked Guju from the 10th prince's embrace. "My son, you look ghostly. Has someone dared to offend you? Speak, and I shall deal with them." "You're the problem, you big bully. You're the only one making my life miserable," the 10th prince cried inwardly. Thinking fast, he forced a smile. "It's merely a slight stomachache from lunch, Imperial Father." The emperor grunted, ordering him to the physician, GK waving the 11th prince away too. They didn't dare resist, retreating with heavy footsteps and hearts that yearned to stay by Guju's side. Seeing their sorrow, Guju tugged on her father's majestic sleeve. Daddy, Guju loves her big brothers. Their tummies only hurt because they're hungry. Let's all eat together. Surprisingly, the emperor softened and agreed. The princes were moved to the brink of tears, though they were far too terrified to even lift their chopsticks. Poor brothers, they're shaking like leaves. I'll help them win Daddy over. The princess felt a surge of warmth at her sweet intentions. But as Guju glanced at her father, she saw him devouring her mother with a gaze that was far from pure. He looks like a starving wolf. When that thought echoed, the room nearly choked on their meal. Only the emperor felt indignant. What's wrong with wanting my wife? Father, focus on eating and stop staring at mother like a creep, Guju teased. The emperor sighed at the brat. Just then, Fuan arrived. Princess Anyang was kneeling outside, desperately begging for His Imperial Majesty's forgiveness. The emperor remained unmoved. Let her stay there. Suddenly, heavy rain began to pour down on the palace. Anyang trembled piteously in the storm. Hearing this, Duke Duan and his wife rushed to save their daughter. They tried to pull her up, but she stayed glued to the freezing ground, stubborn and calculating. She vowed not to rise until her uncle emperor forgave her, her voice dripping with manipulative arrogance. A eunuch reported that the duke's family wanted to take their only girl home to escape the rain. The emperor's face darkened with silent rage, his sharp mind already dissecting their pathetic little scheme. Guju muttered, "It's that brat's own fault. Father already told her to leave. They're just being clueless. Are they actually trying to manipulate the emperor?" Guju wondered, seeing right through their desperate power play. The emperor glanced at Guju with a knowing smirk. You little rascal. You actually understand me? He immediately ordered the duke's family expelled from the palace, banning them from returning without a formal summons. It was a chilling display of imperial authority, a moment of triumph he savored in front of Guju. Meanwhile, a eunuch sprinted out, his high-pitched voice cutting through the rain with the emperor's harsh decree. "Expel the duke's family!" The group kneeling in the mud was instantly paralyzed by sheer, unexpected terror. Their little drama had failed spectacularly. Anyang realized her life as a high and mighty princess was ending. Desperate to stay in power, she gritted her teeth and made a final, violent bid for sympathy. She slammed her head against a stone lotus basin and collapsed. The eunuch rushed back to report the crisis. The emperor was furious. "Who cares about her? I have my own princess." He turned toward Guju. He wore a strange, creepy smile that sent shivers down her spine, while holding a stunning yellow dress. "Guju, look at this beautiful gown. Won't you wear it?" he asked, chasing her throughout the hall. Guju resisted fiercely until the emperor played his ultimate card. "Wear it, and I'll give you 500 silver taels." The servants stood speechless. Their terrifying ruler was actually bribing a toddler to play dress-up. Annie Gi feared a tantrum, but Guju's chubby hand snatched the dress. Silver was too good to refuse. Thinking of the coins, she agreed instantly. Jojo took the dress and skipped toward her room to change. With Nanny Gui's help, she donned the gown and tied her hair into 2 perfectly adorable buns. When she finally stepped out, the emperor turned around and felt his heart melt into pure puddles. The little prince had transformed into a fairy-like princess. So fair and cute, he wanted to scream. He immediately swept her into a hug, planting a huge kiss on her cheek while promising more gowns. "As long as you're happy, name your price," he cheered. Guju realized she actually loved the frilly look. "I could wear this all the time," she thought. The emperor was overjoyed by her sudden change of heart. He lifted her high, spinning her around in the air as laughter echoed through the imperial halls. Soon, whispers about the 18th prince dressing as a girl spread like wildfire across the entire palace. Her older brothers rushed to her side, worried she was being mistreated by their eccentric father. But Guju insisted she was happy. Suddenly, she remembered the disaster planned for the very next day. She told her brothers to meet her tomorrow. The 3 siblings soon found themselves hiding near the elephant stables. Today was the day the crown prince was destined to be trampled by a rampaging beast. In the original story, Anyang saves him and wins his heart. But it was all a calculated lie. Anyang didn't love him at all. Guju watched closely as her brothers listened to her inner monologue. "If someone was being attacked by an elephant, would you save them?" she whispered to her brothers. They both nodded bravely. Just then, the crown prince's royal procession arrived at the stables for inspection. He was there to ensure the elephants were ready for the kingdom's upcoming grand ceremony. But as he approached the final elephant, the crown prince realized something was horribly, dangerously wrong. "Stay back!" the tamer yelled. "This elephant is in heat and has completely lost its mind." Suddenly, the beast snapped its heavy chains and charged straight toward the terrified crown prince. Our crown prince, a master of blade and fist, found himself defenseless against the beast's sudden fury. He crashed into the dirt, the titan's foot looming above. The 10th prince intervened just in time. Using a massive banana, the 10th lured the creature away, while the 11th coordinated the rescue. He dashed forward to shield the air. From the shadows, little Jojo watched with bated breath. Realizing the deception, the beast's rage doubled as it pivoted back toward the defenseless heir. The 11th prince threw himself into danger, taking a brutal strike from that massive trunk. His spine screamed in agony. Fading out, the crown prince realized his brother risked everything. Finally, the 10th prince secured the beast behind iron bars. The danger passed. Guju finally breathed. Still, Guju felt doubt. In the original story, how did that snake Funkaiwei save him? Her eyes narrowed as she spotted Funkaiwei lurking nearby, safely hidden from the struggle. Wasn't she meant to be the hero? Instead, she watched like a cold-blooded spectator. A coward who watches a man die deserves no place in the crown prince's heart. Only the noble Yuan Ying, who donned armor and sacrificed her youth, is worthy of him. She endured the horrors of war and enemy torture, all while remaining fiercely loyal. I must unite these fated lovers. But first, I must check my brave, wounded brothers. She reached for the 11th prince's back, but her fingers came away soaked in crimson. Terrified by the sight of blood, Guju collapsed. Meanwhile, the crown prince was rushed away. The royal doctor confirmed that the prince suffered no life-threatening injuries. The emperor wept with relief, fearing he had failed the memory of the prince's mother. Upon waking, the prince's first thought was for the 11th, his voice trembling with concern. The emperor froze. The reports claimed Princess Anyang was the one who performed the rescue. Bribed by that treacherous girl, the servants lied, claiming the crown prince was simply confused. They insisted she was the heroine. Even the head eunuch pushed the lie for a reward. The emperor's fury ignited. These vultures sought gold while the truth was buried in deceit. He ordered the liars executed. Something smelled foul, and the emperor knew it. Suddenly, Eunuch Fuan burst in, shouting that disaster had struck the Autumn Water residence. The 18th princess has collapsed. The emperor's blood ran cold at the mention of her. At the residence, the 11th's wounds were bound, while concubine Li watched with care. The emperor burst through the doors, frantic for Guju, who had luckily already woken up. She was safe, but her brothers were battered. Hearing Guju's inner voice, everything changed. He saw the truth. From that day, the 10th and 11th served beside the heir. Watching her family bond strengthen, little Guju felt like she could fly with pure joy. Yet, she thought, my old man is totally blind to that wicked Funkaiwei's schemes. Hearing this, the emperor's heart shattered. Did his own daughter truly believe him a fool? Meanwhile, the delusional Funkaiwei was already celebrating. Certain the emperor's favor was hers again. She imagined the crown prince kneeling in love, unaware that judgment was gathering above. A royal decree arrived, striking like a thunderbolt to shatter her petty dreams of power. For the crime of deceiving the throne, death was the answer. Her lies caught up. Though spared from execution for her past service, she would not escape a heavy price. Her title was stripped, her engagement severed, and she was cast out forever. As she stood frozen, the crown prince headed toward his true saviors to offer thanks. The courtyard was alive with laughter as the two princes chased little Guju playfully. They begged for her affection. Poor Guju was worn out, her cheeks pink from kisses. Breaking free from the chase, she dashed forward, colliding straight into the crown prince's knees. Looking up with big eyes, she saw his handsome face melt into a warm smile. She was utterly spellbound by his aura. A quiet sigh escaped her. The crown prince was breathtaking. Shock surged through the prince. Little Guju hadn't spoken, yet her voice echoed clearly in his mind. Could he truly hear her soul? He struggled for composure, chanting silent mantras to steady his heart. Little Jojo looked precious in that dress. Overcome with affection, the prince reached out for a hug. 18th brother, let me embrace you! But Guju resisted, reminding him of his lingering wounds. Then came the bombshell. She was his 18th sister. The prince's heart nearly stopped in its tracks. He lunged to cover her mouth. He blamed their father for this chaos, fearing for her identity. Desperate to fix the confusion, he insisted that Guju must remain a proud and noble prince. Guju felt a wave of injustice. Why did the truth feel like a lie to everyone here? Grateful for his life, the prince made a sacred vow, swearing to protect his brothers forever. He pledged his life to their safety, invoking heaven's lightning should he ever betray this oath. Guju mourned his future. A villain would ruin this noble man and his one true love. It was a tragedy. Hearing his grim fate through her thoughts, the prince froze in terror. His brothers, also hearing the secret thoughts, shared his haunting expression of utter dread. By noon, the emperor arrived, seeking the comfort of Guju's radiant smile over a family meal. He delivered chilling news. The Grand Empress and the treacherous concubine Shu were returning tomorrow. Guju froze. Concubine Shu, the woman who destroyed her mother's life through lies, was finally coming. The ultimate villain was making her move. Would her father finally see through the dark deception? Guju's wide eyes searched her father's face. Feeling guilty, the emperor quickly shifted the subject. Heavy sorrow filled Guju's heart. How could she eat while her family's honor remained buried? Even her favorite delicacies tasted like ash. Seeing her tears, the emperor's heart broke instantly. He desperately offered a trip to the gardens, hoping to see her joyful spirit return today. The plan worked. Guju beamed. He patted her head, seeing only an innocent 5-year-old child. They wandered the gardens in a rare moment of warmth, a picture of perfect royal harmony. But peace was fleeting. In the shadows, 2 servants whispered venomous gossip that shattered the afternoon. They claimed the Grand Empress would cast Guju back into the misery of the cold palace. With concubine Shu's return, they whispered the emperor would surely abandon the child again. Guju's joy vanished. Without a word, she turned her back on her father, heart growing cold. The emperor stood stunned. His precious daughter had just discarded him, leaving him in silence. Fury erupted. He ordered the servants seized, their tongues removed before they were beaten down. The following dawn, the court gathered. The emperor led the welcome for the formidable Grand Empress. Guju's heart hammered. Fear whispered that her grandmother would despise her and her mother both. Concubine Li offered a gentle touch, reminding her the Grand Empress was once their savior. Noticing her trembling, the emperor leaned down with a soft smile to soothe her growing anxieties. He promised that Guju's charm would surely win over the Grand Empress's stern and guarded heart. Relief washed over her, until the royal carriage arrived, carrying the serpent-like concubine Shu. Panic seized Guju. The Grand Empress's expression was like a gathering storm, dark and forbidding. The air grew heavy with tension. Much had changed in the palace during her long absence. The emperor stepped forward, presenting the adorable Guju with a father's fierce and protective pride. He took full blame for the child's disguise, shielding Guju from any impending imperial wrath. The Grand Empress's gaze fell upon Guju. Terrified, the girl felt her courage wither away. Was she truly that scary? The Grand Empress frowned, struck by a revelation that defied logic. She could hear the child's thoughts. Stunned, she struggled to maintain her regal and ironclad composure. There was no malice, only a sudden, overwhelming desire to hold this precious, tiny soul. With a soft smile, the Grand Empress knelt, reaching out to embrace the sweet, trembling Guju. She reached back carefully, tiny Guju instantly melted the Grand Empress Dowager's stony heart. Those sharp imperial eyes recognized a true princess. Overjoyed, she pulled Guju into a warm embrace. 2 heavy gold bracelets were bestowed immediately. The little treasure lover's eyes sparkled with pure greed. She declared her grandmother her absolute favorite. She hadn't looked this thrilled since the last gift. 500 silver tiles were a distant memory. The emperor was officially replaced in her heart. Guju sought her father, but wicked concubine Shu had already ensnared him with a predatory gaze. His majesty remained frigid. "The feast is set. Follow us, concubine Shu," he commanded with indifference. He rushed forward, desperate to reclaim his precious daughter from his mother's doting, ironclad grip. Shielded by the empress, Guju cheekily stuck her tongue out. The feast began with royal doting. The dowager fed her delicacies personally. Seething with jealousy, the emperor could barely contain his envy. "Mother, isn't she getting heavy?" he prodded. The Grand Empress Dowager gave him the look of annoyance. "Your Majesty, you have asked that 10,086 times tonight. I am fine." While he sulked, Shu began her seductive dance. She toasted him, leaning in with scandalous intent. Her whispers suggested a night of passion. Watching this, little Guju's monologue turned into a growl. "That villain! My father would never choose her. When will you finally clear my mother's honor? It was Shu who framed her." Hearing those thoughts, the emperor's expression suddenly shifted. Suspicion took root. Was concubine Li truly framed by Shu's schemes? He had to play carefully. To mask his intent, he drained her cup. Shu sensed a subtle change in the air. She invited him for soup later, retreating to prepare her web of seduction and false comfort. In her chamber, Shu donned a scandalous robe, eagerly anticipating her victory over the emperor. Suddenly, a panicked maid arrived. The emperor had gone to the Autumn Water residence with gifts. Rage exploded. That wretched concubine Li. What dark sorcery has she used to bewitch him now? Shamed on her first night back, her hated rival had stolen the spotlight. This was intolerable. Shu shattered her teacup in a fit of madness. Who does that woman think she is? Her teeth ground together. She cursed that the treason charge hadn't claimed Li's life sooner. Determined to find the truth, the emperor arrived at Shu's palace, standing silently at the threshold. He heard the crashing porcelain and her vile rants. Every word she screamed shattered his trust. Clenching his fists, he suppressed a roar of fury while she gleefully confessed her dark crimes. The trap was shut. He signaled Fuan to open the doors. Shu was still screaming insults. A terrified maid spotted the imperial procession and tried to warn her mistress. Shu was gone. "You useless girl! Why are you winking? I am not the emperor. You cannot seduce me." "The emperor, he is here," the maid whispered. A shadow loomed large behind the panicked woman. His presence was suffocating, his face a mask of darkness. Shu's breath hitched as world collapsed. Your Majesty, your servant greets you," she stammered, her face turning a ghostly pale white. "How long have you been there?" Her heart hammered. If he heard her, her life was over. He met her plea with a terrifying glare. As she scrambled up, his boot met her shoulder. "I rarely strike women, but you are a special kind of filth." Shu dissolved into tears. She wailed about jealousy and love, trying one last act. The emperor's eyes remained cold ice. He cast her aside. "Hear my decree! Concubine Shu is stripped of all titles and rank. Sentenced to the cold palace for framing. Concubine Li's treason charge was a complete wicked lie. She is innocent and restored." As for the 13th prince, his release required a strategic moment. He needed to silence the court first. Timing was everything in the deadly game of politics. Back at the palace, a flood of imperial rewards arrived. Mother and daughter watched in shock. Concubine Li was bewildered by this sudden rain of treasures. Little Guju's eyes glowed like stars. The little money lover was in paradise. As the eunuchs finished their golden delivery, with gifts delivered, the emperor appeared. His gaze toward Lady Li held regret as he spoke. Lady Li, you've suffered deeply. I heard the consort admit she was the one who framed you. I should have investigated before exiling you to the cold palace. Now the emperor cleared their names. Beyond justice, he offered a personal apology. Seeing the mighty sovereign bow made little Guju very suspicious. Did her deadbeat father truly fall for her mother? Hearing her thoughts, the emperor sighed. You little rascal. Lady Li shook her head. Silly child, what do you know of love? Emperors have no time for it. She then dismissed him to his own quarters. But the emperor longed to stay in the autumn residence. Rejection followed. The emperor's face fell like a lonely puppy. Fine, I will wait until you are ready. I shall depart, but Guju, you are coming with me. He scooped her up with undeniable royal authority. Lady Li stood frozen in shock. Internally, Guju cursed him. My father is truly despicable and petty. He cannot have my mother, so he takes me hostage. Despite her age, Guju bore a heavy burden. She felt wronged, yet the doting emperor was merely amused by her fascinating, sassy inner monologue. One morning, Guju woke up rubbing her sleepy eyes. The emperor announced she would attend morning court. Her heart skipped. Was she dreaming? Suddenly, the emperor lifted her and marched straight toward the throne. He was dying to show off his precious treasure. To him, she was the world's most adorable daughter. When the officials saw the fairy-like Guju, they began showering the young princess with endless, sugary compliments. Beauty truly is power. The court remained peaceful until a chained prisoner was dragged inside. General Joya. Western Chu had suffered repeated defeats. An incompetent leader supposedly cost the lives of 3 entire armies. This is your sin, the emperor thundered, ready to execute him. But Guju refused to let him die. He was a brilliant commander. His failures were not his fault, but due to a spy's wicked interference. Worse, he was under a dark curse. General Joya was a tragic soul who lost everything for the crown. His children died in battle. To save his wife from dishonor, he had personally ended her life. Hearing Guju's heart-wrenching thoughts, the emperor fell silent. He had been completely blind to this hidden truth. Without her, he would have lived in darkness forever. The emperor's expression grew dangerously cold and dark. Officials mistook this for rage against Joya. They urged the emperor to execute the supposed traitor immediately. The general stood under the harsh spotlight. Guju fumed. These officials are nothing but a pack of jerks. Instead of helping, they egg him on to kill. If he dies, the military spirit will shatter completely. Western Chu's fall will follow. I hope father stays sharp and recognizes the general's true, unwavering loyalty. Hearing her plea, the emperor's mind cleared. He patted her knee, signaling that he would handle everything. He ordered a deep investigation into the defeat and sent the imperial physician to treat the prisoner. But Guju was unimpressed. That doctor is a total hack. He only knows about a lady's health. He knows nothing of curses. The emperor took a breath and adjusted. Send the deputy head instead. The chief must remain to care for the harem. Guju realized her father was finally on her side. Overwhelmed with joy, her eyes sparkled with adoration. She couldn't resist giving him a big, happy kiss. Guju wasn't just a lucky star. She was the savior of the entire kingdom of Western Chu. Using her thoughts, the emperor rooted out another hidden spy. Inside the study, he felt pure triumph. General Joya was saved. Guju sat happily perched on her father's shoulder, enjoying her new royal life. She had felt his doting love and grew bold enough to climb onto his very royal head. She playfully tied his hair into bows. Guju was surprisingly skilled at this delicate, feminine craft. First the Underworld guards, and now the emperor himself had fallen victim to her cute hairstyling. Fuan stood by, trembling. Princess, this damages the emperor's dignity. But the great sovereign actually loved it. No child had ever been this close. It brought him the simple, pure joy of being a father. After playing for a long while, the little princess finally grew tired. Her small heart was full. Fuan tried to intervene. 18, princess, this damages your father's dignity. But the emperor truly loved it. Such proximity was new, sparking the pure, soul-healing joy of fatherhood. After their playful session, suddenly a chilling thought struck her. Why did General Joe suffer in silence? Logically, a scandal this massive should have reached my father. Was he kept blind? Was someone suppressing the news, hoping to use my father to destroy our hero? The emperor froze as the truth hit. Guju, return to your mother for now. I must investigate this, Joju cheered. My father truly is the most powerful. The emperor secretly visited the general. He needed the truth from Joya himself. Joya hesitated. Your Majesty, the truth is so dark you might not believe me. I will judge the truth myself. Speak. Finally, Joya revealed the traitor, Chen Wang. That snake intercepted every military report and sabotaged our vital supplies during the war. I suspect he is a southern spy. Another traitor hiding in plain sight. The emperor's fury burned. Joya feared he wasn't believed, as Chen seemed so loyal. Joya knelt, vowing to find proof. General Zhou, focus only on your recovery. I will uncover the truth. Returning to the palace, he unleashed his shadow agents. They did not fail, discovering mountains of secret letters hidden within Chen Wangsan's home. Reading them one by one, the emperor's hands shook with terror. What a monster! Behind his mask of loyalty, he had effectively sold our entire kingdom's soul. The lost silver mines and the tragic death of General Wen were his doing. The grain fires and General Zhou's near death, Chen Wangsun was the puppet master. With traitors in the harem and the court, our kingdom was nearly lost. Its survival was a miracle. Pure rage consumed the emperor as he gave orders. He ordered the traitor's family executed. Their heads would hang as a warning. Guju is a divine blessing. Without her, I'd be helping our enemies count gold. Calming himself, he asked, "Where is my precious Guju? Where is the princess now?" She is with the crown prince. The southern envoys arrived today for peace talks. The crown prince is receiving them, and our little princess joined the fun. The crown prince held Guju as they studied 108 diplomatic ways. The text made Guju sleepy. "Jouet, light some refreshing incense," the prince called out. Guju snapped awake. "Xiao Er is here? Why am I reacting so strongly now? Is she a spy too?" The crown prince never suspected his maid was a serpent. Despite her innocent face, she's a traitor. In the original story, she ruined everything. Jouet conspired to poison an envoy, framing our kingdom to steal 5 major cities. Even with our victory, she will try to frame us. Our sacrifices mean nothing. I won't let them! Guju fumed, her little heart blazing with righteous fury. The crown prince panicked. Violating envoy safety was a grave, forbidden ancient sin. If Joju's thoughts were true, his victory and his throne were in mortal danger. Fearing the incense was tainted, he dismissed her. Yet he couldn't act just yet. To stop the southern plot, he desperately searched for a solution to save them. He actually considered drinking the poison himself. His foolish bravery was almost touching. He feared dying childless, never achieving greatness, or meeting his destined future wife. He regretted everything. But then, Guju's mind offered a much better spark. Just then, Guju's brilliant thoughts provided a much better way to win this. If we steal the antidote, we can expose them and turn the tables. We can demand their land instead. Guju was delighted, while the crown prince wept with relief. "Joju is my savior," he cheered, kissing her chubby cheeks. Guju's face went numb. What has gotten into him? My poor silly brother. Her cheeks were suffering again. Fearing the prince couldn't handle the poison crisis, Guju took action. She had a secret plan. Despite her past life as an orphan, she'd mastered ancient medicine. If the crown prince failed, she'd craft a divine universal antidote herself. Her mission had begun. While mixing rare herbs in the courtyard, the emperor appeared behind her, like a silent shadow. He looked worried. Is someone ill? Concubine Li reassured him that Guju was simply playing. The emperor commanded, Send every rare herb the princess desires from the Imperial Hospital at once. My daughter's joy is paramount. He knelt beside her, asking dotingly, Juju, does Papa need to help? Guju held up the heavy pestle. It's too heavy, Father. You do it. He rolled up his sleeves. Fuan panicked. Your Majesty, please, let this servant handle the labor. But the Emperor was faster. He was already grinding herbs with godlike speed. Guju cheered, Wow, Father, you're the best! With their combined efforts, the legendary universal antidote was complete. A miracle in a tiny jar. Guju danced with joy. Clutching the vial, she thought, I, the princess, shall crush every villain. Slay them all, the Emperor laughed, scooping her up. All right, my little princess, time for dinner. He placed her gently at the table. Princess, please, take your seat. Those words felt strangely familiar. In her old life, she heard mock titles like, Princess, get in, or Princess, drink your water. But they were empty words. Now, someone was finally treating her like a true, precious, royal treasure. Overjoyed, Guju planted a sweet kiss on his cheek. The Emperor began grinning like a total fool. She kissed me! Overwhelmed with love, he began bustling around her with frantic, doting devotion. Princess, your chopsticks! Princess, your bowl! Princess, open wide! He was completely smitten by her. Guju basked in the royal treatment. Watching them, Concubine Lee couldn't help but smile at the warmth. But in this harmonious palace, which jealous concubine would strike next? Soon the southern envoys arrived. A grand banquet was prepared for their visit. Ignoring the risks, the Emperor brought Guju along. He brushed off all protests to keep her close. The southern envoy stepped forward with hidden intent. He offered a toast of sincerity. But the Emperor raised a simple teacup instead of wine. I have a precious daughter now, he declared, and she dislikes the harsh scent of alcohol. So I drink tea. It was a proud father's flex and a total slap to their faces. But as the tension peaked, disaster struck. The lead envoy suddenly collapsed, gasping for his life. His lips turned black as dark blood spewed from his mouth. A clear sign of lethal poison. Chaos erupted. The southern envoys screamed, accusing Western Chu of a cowardly assassination attempt. They threatened the Supreme Alliance's judgment. The Emperor turned to the Crown Prince in shock. Explain this! But the prince remained calm, telling his father to trust his master plan. Guju's sharp eyes spotted the antidote in his hand. He was ready to expose their pathetic drama. The Emperor heard her thoughts and understood. Meanwhile, the other royals were frozen in total shock. Hearing her telepathic voice for the first time, they stared at the little princess in disbelief. The prince glared at the envoys. We of Western Chu have honor. We never use poison. Call the Supreme Alliance if you dare. Soon, the Alliance's elite investigators arrived at the hall. The southern envoys rushed forward, crying, Sir, justice! These honorless dogs poisoned our master! Official Liu Jing confirmed the poison, fixing a cold gaze upon the Emperor of Western Chu. The culprit is among your kin, he declared. What is your defense, your Imperial Majesty? The Southerners demanded a heavy price. A price? The Crown Prince sneered with icy contempt. They demanded land, gold, and a public apology from the Emperor. Such unadulterated arrogance. Liu Jing called it a fair trade. But the Emperor let out a dark, terrifying laugh. He stood up, clutching Guju tightly. You dare force me to bow? My daughter is watching. You want an apology from a god emperor? You must be seeking a swift death. Witnessing these Southerners ingest venom just to trap the Western Duke. A pathetic scheme born from their crushing defeat. Pay up! Tiny Guju chirped, backing her tyrant father's play. The southern envoys felt a cold shiver crawl up their spines. Where is your proof? They hissed. In response, the Crown Prince revealed a shimmering vial clutched tightly in his palm. I found the antidote hidden within the southern envoy's own quarters, he declared. The envoy sputtered, claiming the bottle wasn't theirs. Anticipating their lies, the crown prince summoned the imperial physician. Jigman, of 80 years' experience, stepped forward to examine it. With a single sniff, the old physician's eyes widened. He instantly recognized the scent of the antidote for the deadly red thorn poison. This lethal toxin was a secret of the Southern royal family alone. No one else possessed the recipe, let alone the cure. Decisively, the crown prince handed the vial to Liu Jing. The alliance representative didn't hesitate to test the medicine's power. Liu Jing administered the drops to the poisoned victim. To everyone's shock, the antidote's effects were nothing short of miraculous. The envoy's eyes snapped open in less than a second. Liu Jing gasped, turning toward the pale southern delegates with a freezing glare. Envoys of the South, do you confess to the crime of falsely accusing Western Chu? His voice thundered through the hall. Speechless and trembling, the envoys collapsed to their knees. They begged for mercy, their shameful scheme finally exposed to the world. Because of their treacherous framing, the original reparations were instantly doubled. With victory secured, Guju beamed with pride at the prince. Beautifully played, brother, she thought, giving him a thumbs up. As gold flooded the Western Chu treasury, the emperor's mood soared. In his rare delight, the tyrant ordered rewards for every official. The crown prince was overjoyed, scooping up his lucky star, Guju. He showered her with endless cuddles and affectionate nuzzles. Guju was his precious mascot, the source of all this sudden fortune. However, this heavy dose of brotherly love was becoming a bit suffocating. Poor Guju was actually struggling to catch her breath. Seeing this display, a wave of pure jealousy washed over the emperor. Crown Prince, go investigate who truly masterminded that poisoning incident. The Crown Prince looked back, utterly bewildered by the sudden command. Investigate what? He was just busy being a doting brother. Give me back my daughter! You've hugged her quite long enough, the emperor barked, snatching the tiny princess back into his arms. He reminded the prince to hunt down every southern spy. Left with no choice, the prince sighed and obeyed his father's whim. Having reclaimed his treasure, the tyrant emperor let out a rare, doting smile. He gently stroked Guju's head, feeling a surge of possessiveness. No one is allowed to steal her from me, he thought fiercely. But little did he know, the royal relatives were already plotting. Prince Ning was the first to strike, boldly asking to take Guju. He wanted to raise the adorable princess at his own estate. This is absolutely outrageous, Guju fumed silently. Did they really think she was some pet monkey to be passed around and gawked at? Though they could hear her inner protests, the relatives chose to ignore them. Instead, they buried her under a mountain of fake compliments. The princess is just too precious. I want to hug her and lift her high. Guju clung to her father's robes in terror. She feared that at any second she'd be shipped off like a prize animal. I'm not going! I won't leave Mom or my dad! Hearing her frantic thoughts, the emperor coldly rejected Prince Ning. The princess is far too young to leave the palace walls, he stated. But Prince Ning was persistent, arguing that she was already 5 years old. She can run and jump just fine, Your Majesty, he countered. Feeling flustered, the emperor blurted out the first excuse he could find. No, the princess, she is still nursing, he lied shamelessly. Even then, Prince Ning wouldn't back down from the challenge. He suggested bringing the wet nurse along to his estate as well. You raised Duke Duan's daughter here, so why can't I take the princess? You're playing favorites. The emperor's expression turned dark. This Prince Ning really didn't know when to quit, did he? Ning, you are crossing a line, the emperor growled, his voice freezing. Shuddering under that icy gaze, Prince Ning immediately dropped to his knees. He begged for forgiveness, claiming he only spoke out of affection. The emperor remained silent, the tension in the room thick enough to cut. Finally, after an eternal pause, he muttered, "You may rise." Seeing the atmosphere turn sour, the Grand Empress Dowager stepped in. She smoothed things over, ensuring no one else dared to claim Juju. The mood relaxed slightly, until the 80-year-old Prince Su spoke up. He had the audacity to ask for the priceless Eastern Pearl. This legendary treasure was so rare, only one appeared every few decades. It was reserved exclusively for the Empress Dowager's crown. "How dare you covet something belonging to the Grand Empress?" the Dowager snapped. "What could you possibly need such a pearl for?" The old prince stammered, too terrified to reveal the scandalous truth. But Guju knew exactly what was going on behind those greedy eyes. "She thinks she's a queen just because she's pretty," she scoffed. "He's really going to ruin himself for her vanity." The Guju saw right through him. "It's for his 14-year-old concubine who just moved in, isn't it? That little fox thinks she's everything just because she's young. She's demanding the impossible from this 80-year-old man. He's going to throw his back out trying to pluck stars for her." What a truly ridiculous sight. The Grand Empress Dowager and the assembled royals froze, their hearts stopping as Guju's inner thoughts echoed like thunder. Even the stoic emperor couldn't suppress a startled cough. Though Prince Su was shaken, his stubborn greed burned brighter. Clinging to his seniority, the old prince demanded the pearl. Little Guju clenched her tiny fists in silent fury. "If my deadbeat father agrees, grandmother will be so enraged she might actually suffer a fatal stroke." The court fell into a deathly silence. Fearing for the Grand Empress's health, the officials begged the emperor to reconsider. Cornered, Prince Su resorted to a desperate gamble, threatening to end his life against the very palace pillars. The emperor's blood boiled with indecision. He glanced down at the small child in his arms, searching for a miracle. Just then, a loud rumble erupted from Guju's tiny stomach. Softening instantly, the emperor offered her a delicate pastry. As she nibbled, her mind raced with disdain. That love-struck old fool is going to get all 7 sons killed. Prince Su caught the fleeting thought, but brushed it off as nothing more than a child's nonsensical imagination. "Grandpa Prince Su, you truly desire the Eastern Pearl, don't you?" Guju asked, her voice dripping with innocent sweetness. "My father can grant your wish, but such a treasure takes time. Can you truly afford to wait?" "I can wait. I'll wait forever," Su beamed, turning his hopeful eyes toward the silent and calculating emperor. The emperor caught her drift immediately. Guju was buying him time. "I wouldn't want my dear uncle to perish," he agreed. "It is just a pearl. In 20 years, I shall personally deliver it to your estate, Prince Su." The old man nearly choked on his own rage. Trapped by his own words, he retreated in a bitter huff. Yet Guju's heart remained heavy. That wicked concubine is a monster. One of his sons won't survive 2 days. Blinded by his misplaced affection, the stubborn old man refused to believe a single word of the chilling prophecy. But fate is cruel. Days later, the prince suffered the agony of a father bearing his own eldest son. A tragic accident. But in truth, the son had discovered the concubine's deadly poison and paid with his life. The ambitious Kaisha sought to eliminate every heir, hoping to secure the lineage for her own future child. Lost in a sea of mourning, the poor prince remained blissfully unaware of the viper nesting in his bed. Emerging from his haze of grief, the memory of Guju's warning suddenly struck him like a physical blow. That concubine is a monster. The realization felt like a bolt of lightning, shattering his very soul. Trembling with terror, he raced toward the palace, desperate for the little princess to reveal the hidden truth. He found Guju busy tending to her koi, yet he hesitated in the shadows, paralyzed by his past arrogance. When Guju turned, she caught him lurking. To her bewilderment, the old man scurried away like a frightened rabbit. The adorable girl stood frozen in confusion. "I don't eat people, so why is that grandpa running away?" She figured his pride was simply too great to ask a 5-year-old for help. Yet the rejection stung. "Am I really that scary?" she whimpered, beginning to doubt her own adorable and precious existence. While concubine Li stood speechless, the tyrant emperor appeared, scooping his precious daughter into his strong arms. "He simply had an urgent matter at home," the emperor lied smoothly, soothing her ruffled and tiny feathers. Finding comfort in his warmth, Guju snuggled deep into her father's embrace, all her worries finally melting away. "Father, you smell like heaven," she whispered. Jojo wants to smell just as wonderful as you do." Without hesitation, the emperor gifted her his exclusive imperial incense, leaving the entire court in total shock. Such royal favor was unheard of in history. When attendant Buon beamed, the emperor shot him a freezing glare. "Begone!" he barked. In his heart, he wished he could pluck the very stars for his daughter. Guju was content for now, but she was already plotting to bleed her father's treasury dry very soon. Meanwhile, consumed by toxic envy, noble consort Jang and concubine Jin began weaving a new web of malice. They planned to use 3-year-old Princess Anlei to steal the emperor's heart and cast Guju into the shadows. Their goal was simple: destroy concubine Li's status and banish them both to the desolate, cold palace forever. On this fateful day, Guju waited by the gates for her father, but the hours ticked by in silence. With a fallen face, she turned to her mother. "Is father really not coming to see me today?" Concubine Li offered a gentle, bittersweet smile, pulling her daughter close to soothe her aching, tiny heart. "Will he visit?" Concubine Li offered a soothing smile to calm her heart. With a bold heart, she made a declaration. "When father arrives, he must tell me 2 whole stories." Just then, a maid bowed low. "18th Princess, His Majesty invites you to the Imperial Garden at once." Jojo's eyes sparkled with hope. Was her deadbeat dad planning a surprise? She happily skipped alongside her mother. But upon entering the garden, the atmosphere shifted. The tyrant emperor stood there, his expression chillingly grim. He was speaking to Princess Anlei, his brow furrowed. Before concubine Li could approach, a shadow blocked them. It was noble consort Jang, wearing a poisonous smirk. She had orchestrated this trap to witness their downfall. With a sneer, she began her provocation. "Princess Anlei is about to steal the emperor's heart from Guju. You two should prepare yourselves for the cold palace." Her words cut through the air like sharp daggers. Concubine Li's heart hammered against her ribs. She didn't fear the loss of status, only her daughter's suffering. The thought of Guju returning to that desolate place was unbearable. But Guju simply squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Don't worry, mother, I won't lose." Then she turned a mocking gaze toward the arrogant, noble consort Jang. Jojo mused how foolish the consort was, bringing a total stranger into the palace without any background check. Princess Anlei is actually the daughter of Prince Qin, father's sworn enemy. Jang is literally digging her grave. Hearing Guju's secret thoughts, the 10th and 11th princes smirked. They stepped forward to challenge the venomous consort. "Watch your tongue, noble consort," they warned. "Are you still dreaming? You're speaking absolute nonsense right now." Jang's face turned a sickly shade of green. Gasping for air, she spat back her desperate final defense. "Anlei will win his favor. Don't get ahead of yourselves." Suddenly, a thunderous roar shattered the garden's peace. "Get out, every last one of you! Leave this palace and never show your faces to me again!" Princess Anlei, oblivious to the danger, tried to shove Guju aside. "That ugly monster isn't nearly as pretty. Uncle Emperor, don't on me instead!" Enraged, the tyrant roared, ordering the brat to be given 50 slaps. Terrified, Anlei collapsed to her knees, begging for a mercy that wouldn't come. The emperor's face remained stone cold. He commanded Fuan to find the idiot responsible for this mess. Fuan returned quickly, bowing with the truth. "Your Majesty, it was noble consort Zhang who invited her." The emperor's eyes narrowed as he realized her malice. Without a second thought, he sentenced her to a lifetime of solitude within the walls of the cold palace. His gaze then softened as he spotted Jojo. He hurried over, sweeping his precious daughter into a warm embrace. "Guju, did you come for father?" Jojo beamed, playing her part perfectly. "Father, Jojo missed you so much!" Meanwhile, Jang was dragged away, screaming about a frame-up, her face pale as a ghost. What a fool. The emperor ignored her pleas, signaling the guards to finish the job. He had no time for such trash. Nearby, concubine Jin watched from the shadows, laughing at Jang's sheer stupidity. All beauty, but zero brains inside. The emperor calmed his breathing, looking at Juju with tender concern. "Were you frightened by that woman, little one?" Jojo smiled brightly. With father here, I'm never afraid. But a moment later, her small face clouded with worry. She glanced at her mother. Alas, my deadbeat dad doesn't realize how insecure and fragile mother feels right now. Hearing her thoughts, the emperor's heart constricted. He pulled concubine Li into a protective, soul-stirring hug. You must have been terrified. Don't worry, I will always be your shield. Warmth flooded Li's entire being. She was so moved that words failed her. Jojo cheered internally, showering her father with silent, glowing praise. Deadbeat Dad is incredible. His aura today is 10 feet tall. This moment of family bliss was breathtaking. Yet this harmony only fueled the envy of lurking green-eyed monsters. The emperor then made a royal promise. He would tell Guju stories for a month. She was ecstatic. But then a desperate cry pierced the air. The cheerful mood shattered instantly. Suan rushed out to find Prince Su being carried in, completely unconscious. Accompanied by his son, the scene was dire. Fearful of scaring Jojo, the emperor comforted her before investigating. Tragedy had struck. Prince Su's second son had died suddenly. The shock had caused the prince to collapse. Before passing out, he had gasped a single instruction: find Princess Guju. The urgency in his voice was chilling. Regaining consciousness, he begged to see the child. The emperor realized the truth behind this desperate, sudden arrival. Prince Su had surely heard Guju's inner voice. He now believed in her divine gift to foresee the future. He had come for help, but the emperor guarded his daughter's secret with absolute iron resolve. Guju bound Prince Su by oath before purging the viperous concubine. Choosing his sons over love, the prince sacrificed his treacherous favorite. Imperial steel fell upon the traitors, restoring blood-stained peace. Guju became the prince's living goddess, a beacon for his soul. From minor fevers to neighborhood scuffles, he sought her constantly. Joju's patience shattered. She fled into the emperor's protective arms. Tears fell as she begged for mercy from his chatter. His family drama is endless. I cannot bear it anymore. Protecting his star, the emperor instantly banned the annoying prince. Joy erupted. A magnificent birthday celebration now awaited the princess. Her eyes sparkled. Would the fated guests finally gather tonight? The emperor smiled, unaware of his daughter's secret matchmaking web. If the kingdom gathers, the crowned prince's bride will appear. I must unite Yuening with my dear brother's heart. The name sounded familiar, yet the emperor's memory remained clouded. He entrusted the crowned prince with the banquet's grand design. Visions of exotic gifts danced within Joju's excited, dreaming mind. I crave the street flavors I missed long ago. Her silent plea pierced the emperor's soul like a blade. He commanded the kitchens to master every sugary delight imaginable. Guju drooled as her father's love turned into sweet reality. Concubine Li laughed softly, warning him not to overindulge her. She is my world. I shall spoil her without limit. A birthday kiss sealed their bond as the morning dawned. Concubine Li prepared the sleepy princess for her grand debut. Looking in the glass, Guju's drowsiness turned to pure shock. Is this fairy me? She gasped at her radiant reflection. Narcissistic joy bloomed as she admired her own perfect face. Her mother smiled, leading her toward the magnificent Delan Hall. You look breathtaking, mother, like a true celestial goddess today. They arrived as the atmosphere grew thick with royal anticipation. Mother must be the hidden jewel, a shock for everyone. Guju acted cute, ushering her mother to a side chamber. Concubine Li relented, warning the girl to stay out of trouble. I'll find my brothers, Guju lied, sprinting off like lightning. She searched the crowds for the fated bride of legend. Outside, she witnessed a cruel scene. Feng Kaiwa striking again. The villainess was kicking her victim while spewing venomous insults. It was Nan Yangxiang! Rage burned through Guju's royal veins. Stop right there! She charged forward like a vengeful storm. Don't be afraid. I am here to be your shield. How dare you torment royalty? Guju's voice boomed with authority. The bully scoffed, mocking the victim's poverty and Guju's interference. I know my kin, Guju snarled, her warning sharp as steel. But the bully laughed. unaware of the storm brewing nearby. Jojo demanded an apology for Yan Xiang but the arrogant Feng Hai refused to repent. Yan San exposed the lies as Jojo saw through the girl's deceitful victim act. Apologize or be banished Jojo threatened yet Feng Hai's pride challenged the imperial authority. The call for guards rang out as soldiers stepped forward ready to execute the princess's will. Jojo pointed at the culprit condemning the vicious assault on her helpless little cousin. Banish her now Jojo commanded as guards seized the girl like a frightened little chick. Yuan Shang smiled in relief while the grand birthday banquet was finally set to begin. The Empress Dowager graced the hall but the little princess was nowhere to be found. The emperor sent his servant to find concubine Li and his precious daughter immediately. Suddenly, Duke Duan burst in, weeping for justice over the supposed humiliation of his daughter. The Empress Dowager was puzzled as the Duke aggressively demanded an explanation for this crime. He twisted the narrative painting Jojo as a bully who banished his daughter on a whim. With every lie spoken the Duke sought to destroy the young princess's growing reputation. The emperor's face turned cold questioning if such a move was truly born of dislike. Uninformed ministers began to murmur siding with the Duke as tension gripped the hall. Emboldened by support the Duke demanded Jojo be punished for her supposedly cruel actions. The emperor glanced sideways reminding the Duke that truth often hides behind loud words. He trusted his child's heart more than a one-sided tale and summoned Jojo at once. Jojo soon appeared gently supporting the limping and badly injured figure of Yuan Xiang. Gasps of pity filled the air seeing the girl's broken state and the attacker's cruelty. The Duke coughed in guilt yet still pressed for judgment as the evidence drew near. Did you banish her without cause? The emperor asked his voice echoing through the silence. Jojo looked at his face knowing Feng Hai had woven the threads of her own ruin. With red-rimmed eyes Jojo revealed the brutal truth showing her cousin's agonizing wounds. They beat her without mercy Jojo sobbed as she laid the evidence before her father. The physician confirmed the horror stating that the girl's bones were nearly shattered forever. Without Jojo's swift help Yuan Xiang would have been permanently crippled by this assault. Rage exploded from the emperor as he fined the Duke and ordered his house arrest. Jojo cheered inwardly seeing her mighty father protect his family with such power. The banquet finally began as mountains of precious gifts were presented to the princess. Dazzled by the treasures Jojo was lost in wonder until her father's voice spoke. "Where is your mother?" he asked and Jojo realized she had forgotten. Concubine Li. At that moment concubine Li entered a vision of elegance that stunned the court. The emperor was captivated announcing with a smile that her family's name was cleared. Your father is restored he promised and a reunion is finally within your reach. Overwhelmed with joy concubine Li nearly wept but her daughter reminded her to smile. Today is for happiness Jojo whispered and her mother nodded with tears of relief. Their smiles were more precious than any treasure as the emperor watched with pride. But amidst the music news of a scandal reached Jojo's ears concerning Yuan Ying. She recognized the trap instantly a plot from the past to frame an innocent soul. Jojo rushed to follow the crown prince refusing to let a misunderstanding take root. "Wait for me she cried taking his hand as they entered the Imperial Gardens. They found her in the tree looking like a spy but Jojo saw the truth. Yuan Ying wasn't spying she was cradling a life gently returning a bird home. Her heart was pure as she protected the weak proving the rumors were all lies. So you've arrived, Nan Bowen hissed, poisoning the crown prince's heart against her own sister. She accused the maiden of improper spying, demanding a harsh punishment for her presence. High in the branches, Yuan Ying saw her childhood crush and felt her heart shatter. Panic seized her. She lost her footing and plummeted from the tree toward the ground. But destiny was swift. The prince caught her in a firm, protective, and breathtaking embrace. Jojo's soul screamed with joy. "I'm shipping it!" While others burned with a bitter jealousy. Yuan Ying gazed at her hero, paralyzed by an overwhelming wave of long-held adoration. Seizing the silence, the villainess spat more lies, labeling the girl a shameless, desperate stalker. Guju stomped her feet in a frenzy. "Prince, don't let that wicked woman deceive you!" The prince waited for an answer, his curious gaze locked onto the trembling young lady. But shyness held Yuan captive. Jojo realized the poor girl was simply too love-struck. Through a strange connection, the prince heard Guju's thoughts and saw the hidden truth. Instead of a criminal, he saw a bashful girl whose clumsy charm was truly endearing. He stepped closer, his voice like silk. "Worry not. Tell me the truth and I'll believe." Overjoyed, Yuan whispered her secret. "I was only trying to rescue a fallen baby bird." The prince marveled at her soul. Such kindness is a rare treasure in this palace. Enraged by the praise, the scheming sister shrieked, demanding proof of the girl's words. Suddenly, Jojo stepped forward, shielding the pair like a tiny, fierce warrior for love. "I saw it! She was holding the little bird!" the young princess declared with fire. When the villainess dared mock the child, the prince's fury erupted like a winter storm. "Enough! 50 lashes for this insolence. Drag her away before she ruins the air further." With the trouble gone, Jojo begged to stay by her new favorite sister's side. The prince smiled dotingly and invited Yuan Ying to walk back to the banquet hall. As they walked, Jojo marveled at Yuan's beauty, longing to touch her radiant face. Her hand reached out instinctively, but Yuan mistook the innocent gesture for a gift. She handed Jojo her own precious hairpin, promising even grander rewards inside the hall. Jojo froze in a panic. "If I explain, she'll think I'm some kind of creep." Hearing her conflict, the prince decided to help, leaning toward Yuan Ying's delicate ear. "I want to touch your face," he murmured, sending a jolt of electricity through her. Yuan's face turned a brilliant crimson. "Prince, surely this isn't the time or place." Realizing his mistake, he quickly corrected himself. "It was Guju's wish, not my own." She fled into the distance, leaving Jojo staring after her in a state of confusion. "What did you say to her?" Jojo asked, sensing something had gone terribly wrong. The prince gave a sheepish smile. "I said I wanted to touch her, and she ran." Jojo's heart sank into her shoes. The pretty big sister must hate me forever now. She felt deeply wronged. Her lips trembled, and a loud, sorrowful "ah" filled the air. The prince panicked, desperately trying to soothe the crying child. But it was too late. Suddenly, a towering shadow fell over them. The tyrant emperor had arrived, looking furious. Seeing his precious daughter in tears, his face darkened with an aura of absolute death. "Who dared to make my princess cry?" he thundered, eyes fixed on the prince. He immediately ordered the prince to go reflect on his sins in cold isolation. The emperor and concubine Li tried everything, but Jojo's tears were like a broken dam. Her tiny heart was broken, and no amount of royal comfort could stop the flood. The palace stood in silence as the great ruler struggled to calm a child's despair. To settle the fuss, the emperor offered a massive chicken leg. "Eat first," he commanded. "Then you can resume your tears." Guju froze in disbelief. What a bizarre way to comfort a child. Yet, her neglectful father actually seemed to care. She began devouring the meat, her sobs fading into silence. The emperor watched his daughter with a rare, softening gaze. "Did the crown prince mistreat you?" he asked softly. Guju shook her head frantically, clearing her brother's name. She couldn't confess the embarrassing truth. Her heart was bruised because a beautiful lady had rejected her touch. It was far too mortifying to explain. Shaking off the shame, Guju scrambled away to find the elusive Yuan Ying. Sidestepping her father's heavy questioning, she marched forth with a single mission: win over that gorgeous older sister. Her father's peace of mind didn't matter now. Only winning Yuan Ying's favor consumed her determined little heart. Suddenly, thud! She collided with a wall of solid muscle. Looking up, she faced the formidable First Prince, a legendary warrior. Back from years of bloody warfare, he sneered down at her. "So, you're the little 18 who dresses like a girl." Guju bowed with perfect etiquette, but her mind raced with a dark, tragic vision of his impending fate. In 10 years, when the kingdom falls, this proud warrior's head will be struck off on a lonely battlefield. The prince's face twisted in sudden fury. "What nonsense are you babbling?" he roared, hearing her inner thoughts. Guju looked utterly wronged. "I didn't say a word. I only bowed." The surrounding nobles watched the outburst in confusion. The atmosphere turned suffocatingly awkward. Unable to explain his rage, the first prince turned to make a grand, haughty exit. Guju stuck her tongue out. She truly wanted to warn him to be careful, lest he lose his front teeth. But the arrogant prince scoffed. He was a master of martial arts. How could a seasoned soldier possibly stumble? Yet, fate had other plans. In the very next breath, his own long robes betrayed his clumsy, arrogant feet. He crashed face first into the dirt. To make matters worse, the tyrant emperor arrived, his presence chilling the air. The first prince scrambled up, his front teeth shattered. "Father," he lisped, his warrior pride turning to absolute ash. Regret washed over him like a cold tide. He should have listened. Now his father would surely despise his weakness. Seeing his pathetic state, Guju felt a twinge of pity. He was a hero, after all, despite his prickly nature. She couldn't let her father's favor slip away from him. Not after all the sacrifices he made for their kingdom. She rushed to the emperor's side. "Father! Brother only fell because these palace robes are so terribly long and heavy." Moved by her plea, the emperor issued an immediate decree. Military officials were no longer required to wear restrictive robes. He dismissed the prince to seek a healer. The warrior stood frozen, stunned that Guju had actually saved his reputation. For a fleeting moment, he found this little brother more charming than any girl. But Guju's true quest remained. She finally spotted her target and ran up eagerly. "Sister Yu, may I grace the seat beside you?" Yuan Ying offered a radiant smile. "Of course, princess. Please, make yourself comfortable by my side. Are you famished, your highness? Some sweets, perhaps?" Guju waved her off. That chicken leg had been a complete feast. They settled in as Yuan Ying whispered. The Southern Kingdom sent their finest dancers today to settle their debts. They even sent a tribute prince, she added. A young boy of barely 8 or 9 years as collateral. Guju's blood ran cold. Could this be the fated male lead? The one destined to conquer and marry the heroine? If he was here, their kingdom was doomed to burn. This child was a sleeping dragon in a prince's skin. She had to intercept him first, but only the tyrant emperor knew exactly where this dangerous guest was hidden. Guju was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Yet, she couldn't ruin the birthday banquet prepared for her. She gritted her teeth, enduring the festivities until the final torch flickered. Then, she bolted to find her father. She marched up to the emperor, but before she could speak, he preempted her. "Go check on your brother." It was a clever ruse. The emperor simply craved an excuse to spend more time with his precious, chaotic daughter. Soon, they arrived at the consort's quarters. "Greetings, your majesty." The servants bowed low as the royal pair entered. Without a second thought, Guju wiggled free from her father's arms and dashed toward the fallen prince's side. "Go visit your eldest brother." Yet, his heart held a secret desire to find a clever pretext. He longed to cherish every moment with his darling Guju. Soon, the emperor arrived, cradling the girl tenderly. They reached the noble consort's palace. "Blessings, your majesty." "Greetings, father." But as the formal salutations echoed, Guju slipped from the emperor's embrace, her tiny feet racing toward the first prince in genuine concern. The emperor's jealousy flared like a spilled vat of ancient vinegar. "Why is my Guju only focused on that brat?" he grumbled, his face flushing crimson as he failed to meet Guju's innocent, searching gaze. Shame over his earlier cruelty consumed him. Watching the tension, noble consort Shan gracefully intervened. She offered a soothing smile. "Thank you for your kindness, princess. The bleeding has finally been contained. We'll find a way to restore his smile later." Hearing this, Guju couldn't suppress a playful giggle. Her brother was a legendary general, yet he was acting as timid as a sheltered maiden over a tooth. The first prince sensed her mocking thoughts and roared in frustration. "I don't care about some stupid teeth." His sudden outburst terrified poor Guju, and tears began to shimmer in her wide, soulful eyes. "Is Big Brother going to eat me?" The prince panicked, completely at a loss for words or explanations. At this critical moment, the tyrant emperor intervened. He swept Guju into his protective, powerful arms. After a cold glare at the prince, he turned to leave. Their bond would remain fractured for now. The prince would have to wait for recovery to make amends. On the long path back home, Guju pestered her doting father, begging him not to harbor a grudge against her older brother. The emperor finally yielded to her persistence. "I won't." Only then did Guju let out a soft sigh. Yet, seeing her worry for another made the emperor's heart turn sour with possessive jealousy. Next, Guju's tone turned serious as she asked about the hostage prince from the southern kingdom. Fearing for her safety, the emperor warned her to stay away. Guju gave a sweet, deceptive smile. "Then tell me where he is, Daddy, so I can avoid him." She knew this boy held their destiny. Mentioning the empire's fall made the emperor's heart skip. He wanted her childhood to remain pure. He never dared speak of their grim fate, but Guju's worry wouldn't fade until this was resolved. Reluctantly, he revealed that the captive prince was being held in the desolate, cold tribute residence. The following morning, Guju embarked on a secret mission. The manor was as barren as a wasteland. No wonder her father had forbidden her from coming alone. But Guju possessed a truly rebellious spirit. The more he forbade it, the more she wanted it. Reaching the gate, 2 guards blocked her. "This residence is off limits, princess. Please return." Guju looked up with large, shimmering, watery eyes. "Father gave me permission to be here." Fearing the emperor's wrath, the guards immediately stepped aside. They offered to escort her, but Guju firmly refused. She marched into the courtyard with bold confidence. "He's just a young boy," she thought. "He shouldn't be able to cause me any real harm." Turning a corner, she froze. A small, frail figure was kneeling motionless in the biting white snow. Her heart thundered in her chest. Could this be the future tragic lead? The young Jiang? She rushed to his side, pleading for him to stand. But his body remained stiff in resistance. This was her father's cruel display of power, a brutal lesson meant to intimidate the southern kingdom. Jiang had been forced to kneel for an entire month. He's just a pawn, Guju thought. If this continues, his body will be broken forever. She recalled the tragic prophecy from the book. After the empire falls, this boy would hunt the royals and sever their legs in bloody revenge. The seeds of hatred were being sown right now. To save everyone, Guju had to act quickly. She had to convince her father to show mercy. Before leaving, she grasped Jiang's freezing hand. "I will convince father to stop this. Just wait for me." A spark flickered in his hollow eyes. For a moment, his frozen heart thawed. But the cold soon returned, replaced by a mocking smile. "She's just making excuses to flee," he whispered. Meanwhile, Guju sprinted toward the imperial study. "Daddy!" The emperor's face transformed with pure joy at the sight of his precious little star. He beamed with delight as he lifted her high. "Why so sudden? Did you miss your father?" He playfully pinched her cheeks, but his warmth vanished when he noticed the dirt on her face. Did someone dare lay a finger on you? After enduring his overwhelming affection, Guju finally spoke. I'm fine, Daddy. She looked at him with resolve. I heard you ordered the hostage prince to 1 month of kneeling for the prince. The emperor's rage flared, suspecting the boy's insolence. Had he harmed his precious Jojo? She interjected, clarifying the prince was no bully. She begged to end his torment. Yet the emperor growled that the South deserved this fate. A show of absolute dominance was required, lest the Western Chu be perceived as weak. Jojo cared little for power games. She only feared the seeds of hatred growing in Daijung. Future vengeance would be devastating. 1,000-fold retribution awaited the kingdom if they continued. After all, he was fate's chosen protagonist. Once he united the world, their kingdom was doomed. The emperor was oblivious to the boy's destiny. Considering the request, he hummed in cold agreement. Kneeling was indeed a trivial punishment. Jojo hoped for mercy, but her heart soon sank. Let us just execute him, he stated. Jojo froze in pure terror, her heart nearly stopping. She pleaded with her tyrant father. Senseless blood would only bring infamy upon their crown. This boy possessed heaven's protection. Killing him was impossible and would only breed eternal resentment. The emperor paused, reflecting on his own bloody path. He, too, was a child of destiny. Despite countless schemes, he rose to the throne, crushing every enemy who stood before him. Fate is a fickle thing, Jojo whispered. Mercy today secures our kingdoms tomorrow, Father. Harboring such malice within these walls is dangerous. Jojo's pure plea reached his cold heart. Finally, the emperor relented, granting the prince's freedom. Overjoyed, Jojo cheered, "Thank you, Daddy!" Meanwhile, Daijung remained kneeling, haunted by the image of the princess's fierce determination. Conflicting emotions swirled within his soul. Suddenly, the announcement of the princess's arrival echoed. He was speechless. Had she truly returned? Jojo rushed toward him, her face beaming with joy. "Little brother, you are free," she chirped. "Father has canceled everything. You can stand up now." Looking at the adorable girl, the shadows in Daijung's heart began to melt away. Yet suspicion remained. Is she trustworthy? He wondered. Seeing him limp, Jojo panicked. She summoned the imperial physician immediately, fearing the boy might be permanently crippled. As the doctor approached, Daijung recoiled like a wounded animal. Jojo stepped in gently. "Don't fear, little brother," she whispered. "He is only here to help you." He finally yielded. The examination began. Fortunately, the wounds were shallow and would mend within a few days. "That's wonderful news," Jojo exclaimed, her heart soaring with relief at the doctor's prognosis. A heavy burden vanished. His legs were safe, and so was her kingdom's future. Taking his hand like a protective older sister, she led him inside toward a grand surprise. A feast of delicacies awaited them. Seeing his fragile, thin frame, Jojo felt a sharp pang. She had prepared this imperial banquet herself to restore his strength. Daijung gazed at the spread. For a moment, warmth filled his chest. Then, the memory of the tyrant's threats turned him cold. That old fox would not show mercy for a child, he thought. Reality crashed back down. Was this a trap? Was the girl merely a pawn in some sinister plot to eliminate him? Doubting everything, he prepared to use his silver ring to check the food for hidden poisons. He waited for her to turn away. Jojo noticed his hesitation and felt a wave of worry. She then remembered the imperial decree. A eunuch stepped forward, unrolling the golden scroll to read. By order of the emperor, the southern prince is released from all physical penance immediately. His treatment shall rival the imperial harem. No neglect shall be tolerated within these walls. Daijung was stunned. Was this freedom real? No more kneeling, no more starving. It felt impossible. It was a beautiful dream woven by this small girl. "Hurry, eat!" Jojo urged with a smile. She grabbed a drumstick, stuffing her face with adorable greed. Grease stained her cheeks as she chewed. "It is so tasty," she mumbled. Seeing her messy enthusiasm, Daijung finally offered a genuine chuckle. Flustered, Jojo turned bright red. Don't just watch. I have already tasted everything. It is safe. For you, it's delicious. Daijang's walls began to crumble as he nodded with a gentle smile. Every ounce of suspicion vanished, replaced by a warmth he'd never known. Soon, the hungry Guju eyed those succulent shrimp, but her tiny fingers fumbled with the shells. Seeing her struggle, Daijang didn't hesitate to peel a plump one for her. Here, try this. Guju beamed with pure radiance. Thanks, little brother. You eat too. As they shared their meal, a soul-deep bond began to form. But as darkness draped the palace, danger still lurked. His servant whispered, Your Highness, stay alert. That old fox, the Western Chu Emperor, harbors deep malice. He won't forgive our kingdom so easily. I fear the princess's kindness is merely a cruel trap. But Daijang silenced him immediately. He saw through the political games. The court might be corrupt, but the princess was pure. He wouldn't tolerate a single bad word against her. She was his only light in this world. After years of bitter cruelty and cold exploitation, his heart was a map of jagged scars. Hope had been a forgotten concept, until now. A faint spark flickered within him, yearning for her. The next dawn, Guju stirred from her slumber, only to find 3 giant faces looming over her. She let out a startled squeak. Her brothers were handsome, but this was a terrifying wake-up call. The crown prince bowed in apology, sentencing himself to penance for scaring his precious sister. Guju's heart melted instantly. Sensing her mood, the crown prince leaned in with a tempting offer. Juju, shall we venture beyond the palace walls today? Her eyes sparkled with sheer, unadulterated joy, a chance to see the world. Yet, she wondered why her brother was suddenly being so generous. Her younger brothers began to gossip. He's only going to see Yuan Ying, they snickered softly. He's terrified of General Yu's legendary temper and hopes little Guju will be his secret shield. Guju's face fell, her expression wounded. Brother, you're just using me as a pawn. Flustered, the prince coughed nervously. Now, that's only part of the plan. Besides, don't you adore Miss Yu? Help me, and you might finally touch her beautiful face. Guju wavered. Really? But what if it fails? The prince puffed out his chest with bravado. Then I'll be your horse for the day. The deal was struck. The temptation was simply too great. To her, it was a win-win situation. But the prince's promise was about to be tested. He swore he'd get her that meeting, unaware that he'd soon be swallowing his pride. They stood before the general's massive gates, which remained stubbornly shut. The prince turned bright red. He felt small enough to vanish into the pavement. Guju sighed. I must charm the general. She recalled a secret from the books. The fierce General Yu harbored a nostalgic craving for taro. It was the taste of his brotherhood on the battlefield. Yet it was now a rare delicacy. If we bring him taro, the gates will open. Guju's mind raced as she turned to her brother. Let's head to the West Market. I have the perfect gift in mind to soften his heart. The prince caught on quickly, impressed by her wit. Of course! General Yu lives for taro! But the trek to the market was grueling. Poor Guju was nearly fainting from the exhaustion. Finally, their persistence was rewarded with a heavy sack of fresh taro. They rushed back in triumph. The prince has arrived with a tribute of taro for General Yu, the attendant called out loudly. At the mere mention of his favorite snack, the gates swung wide, and they were ushered inside. As they waited, the air grew heavy with anticipation. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed through the hall. General Yu has arrived! He entered with the raw, intimidating power of 1,000 battles. His piercing gaze locked onto Guju, sending a shiver down her spine. Why is he staring? But then, the old warrior's face cracked into a warm, crinkled smile. The little princess is here? Why wasn't I told? His eyes then fixed on the taro, practically dancing with long-awaited hunger. Guju seized the moment, using her most adorable voice to plead for the crown prince's favor. But the second the request left her lips, the general's warm smile vanished into thin air. "Abandon that marriage proposal immediately!" Joju's heart plummeted. Was her ultimate ship about to sink? Would they really end like this? Little Joju was baffled. Her brother was a peerless prince. General Yu remained stoic, his voice cold. His Highness is undoubtedly a man of unmatched brilliance. However, I've already chosen Leupe, the minister's son. He is the gentleman my daughter deserves. Seek another match elsewhere. The crown prince froze in disbelief. The shock felt like a physical blow. Before he could protest, Joju's thoughts raced. That Leupe is no gentleman. He's a total scumbag. If Grandpa Yu sees his true filthy nature, he'll definitely incinerate that toxic marriage contract. But how could a 5-year-old explain such darkness? Joju struggled to find the right words. Sensing the heavy atmosphere, the prince intervened. Let's drop this boring talk. Who wants toys? Joju jumped at the chance. Yes, I heard the night market has the best dragonflies. General Yu frowned as the sun set, worried for her safety. But the trap was set. Joju blinked her big, misty eyes. Grandpa Yu is a legendary hero. You'll protect me, right? The iron-willed general stood no chance against such pure cuteness. He sighed and finally gave in. Moments later, the trio arrived at the bustling night market. Joju cradled in the general's arms. Joju's eyes sparkled like diamonds at the toys. She looked so precious, the general's heart melted. Whatever you want, Grandpa Yu will buy it. He wanted to spoil this little angel rotten. Though she loved the trinkets, Joju stayed focused. They were there for a much bigger reason. Suddenly, a woman's desperate scream cut through the air. Well, well, speak of the devil, Joju whispered sweetly. Grandpa, isn't that the perfect son-in-law you were just bragging about? The general marched toward the noise, finding Leupe manhandling a terrified woman in the street. Come with me and live in luxury, the brute barked, his face twisted with arrogance. You took my sister just like this, she sobbed. And she was dead within 2 days. The monster only smirked. Follow me willingly, or I'll carve up that pretty face right now. She trembled, searching for any sign of mercy. By chance, one of Leupe's lackeys noticed them. Sir, your father-in-law is right there, the guard hissed. But the villain just laughed. That old fossil, he's probably tucked in bed already. General Yu's blood reached a boiling point. Loop! The general's roar shook the stalls. Before the scum could blink, a fist connected. Impact! The general grabbed him by the 3G, eyes burning with fury. Justice will find you tomorrow. As for the wedding, it's over. Watching this fierce side, Joju worried for her brother's future. But the plan worked. Seeing the truth, the general's icy wall finally began to crack. His gaze toward the prince softened significantly. For once, he invited him to a family dinner. Soon, Yuan Ying arrived with steaming plates, the aroma filling the room with warmth. Joju clapped, pulling Yuan Ying to sit. Sister, sit here, right next to me. The girls stole a shy glance at the prince, only to find him already staring softly. Their faces flushed crimson instantly. General Yu watched the sparks fly, his resolve wavering completely. Joju decided to fan the flames of romance. Grandpa, can they just be together forever now? A sudden, heavy silence filled the room. The air was thick with unspoken romantic tension. General Yu cleared his throat. This cannot wait. Your Highness, I have my final answer. The prince's heart hammered against his ribs. The moment of truth had finally arrived. He waited with bated breath, his entire future hanging on the general's next few words. I accept your proposal. The general's solemn words felt like a heavenly decree of joy. The prince's face lit up as he looked at Yuan Ying. Their ears turned bright red. Then I shall bring the engagement gifts tomorrow. Joju's favorite ship had finally set sail. She hopped around like a joyful bunny, hugging Yuan Ying tightly. We're officially family now. Giggling, she reached out her tiny hand to touch Yuan Ying's blushing, beautiful face. The very dream she'd been chasing. I finally touched it. Juju's eyes crinkled into crescent moons of pure bliss. But a moment later, she deflated like a punctured balloon. She grumbled, "So much for getting a piggyback from His Highness." Overhearing her pouting thoughts, the Crown Prince's lips quirked upward. He secretly committed her adorable wish to memory. With twilight falling, the prince escorted Guju back to his private estate beyond the palace walls. He was still floating on air after his successful proposal. To him, Juju was the day's true shining star. "Juju, I truly owe you my thanks." Upon hearing this, the girl squeezed her eyes shut, faking a deep slumber. Internally, she huffed, "No ride, no talk. I'm ignoring you." Seeing through her act, the prince poked her soft cheek. "Juju," he whispered playfully, "how about I give you that piggyback ride now?" Suddenly, her exhaustion vanished into thin air. She bounced up like a coiled spring. In a heartbeat, she was perched on his back, beaming with triumph. As they shared this tender moment, an attendant burst in with urgent news. "The second prince has arrived, Your Highness. He insists on offering his congratulations regarding an urgent matter." The brothers had been inseparable since their youth. Naturally, the prince ordered his entry. But Guju's expression twisted in terror as her mind screamed a warning. "No! He's dangerous! He's a total fraud, hiding his true identity just to steal the throne from you." The crown prince, once brimming with joy, felt a bolt of icy lightning strike his soul at her revelation. Memories of the second prince's bizarre behavior flooded back. He never truly resembled the royal bloodline, did he? Even his own mother had treated him with cold disdain since birth, yet the prince had offered him nothing but love. For years, he'd cherished him as a brother, unaware a venomous snake was coiling at his feet. Juju gazed at the prince with furrowed brows, weighing whether to expose the villain's entire web of lies. Seeing the little girl racking her brain for his sake moved the prince deeply. His heart warmed with affection. "Tell him I'm exhausted," he commanded the attendant coldly. "We shall speak another time. Send him away immediately." His voice turned sharp as steel. "In fact, find any excuse to bar him from my sight. I won't see him." Guju's eyes sparkled at his sudden decisiveness. "My prince is so cool," she cheered silently, her heart racing. Hearing her over-the-top flattery, he couldn't hide his smile. "Juju, it's late. Shall we save our next ride for tomorrow?" "Deal!" Guju nodded eagerly. Before long, she drifted into a peaceful slumber with the prince guarding her side. Her final thought was a vow. "I will rewrite his tragic destiny." Watching her sleep, the prince felt a surge of peace. A profound warmth filled his chest. He silently swore to protect this precious girl, no matter the cost. The next morning, Juju slept until the sun kissed the center of the sky. She woke to find the prince busy. He had already left to deliver the betrothal gifts to the Yu family. Instead of being upset, a bold idea sparked. "Time for an urban adventure," she declared. Nanny Gui, trembling for her safety, tried to block her path. Guju wouldn't budge. She turned on the charm, her wide, watery eyes pleading. "Please, Nanny, you'll be right there. We'll have secret guards trailing us. It'll be our little secret." Unable to resist such cuteness, the nanny finally relented. Thus, the pair slipped out into the vibrant city. But the moment they crossed the threshold, shadows began to stir. Unbeknownst to her, a pair of predatory eyes tracked her every move through the bustling marketplace. As she enjoyed the lively crowds, a hand suddenly snatched her up. Juju's soul nearly leaped out of her skin. It was her eldest brother, sporting a massive, awkward grin. He'd been stalking her, desperate to win her favor. Alas, his clumsy approach failed miserably. Guju stared back with zero affection, her mind racing with suspicion. Why is he dangling me like a puppy? Is he still holding a grudge over the banquet incident? The first prince's heart sank as he saw her wary face. I was just excited," he stammered, flustered. "Let me make it up to you. I'll buy you the most legendary meat buns in the entire capital." At the mention of a feast, Guju's ears perked up, though she remained on high alert. The prince felt a pang of regret. He cursed his past arrogance at the birthday gala. Soon, they reached the city's most prestigious bun shop. Order the whole menu if you want, Guju. My treat. The girl stared at the overwhelming options, completely paralyzed. Seeing his chance to shine, the first prince began passionately pitching his personal favorite, meat buns. Guju couldn't help but roll her eyes internally. Are the palace chefs really that bad? Seriously, meat buns again? The first prince flinched as her sharp critique echoed in his mind. He was failing the good brother test again. He wished the ground would swallow him whole. Forget that. Have you ever tasted wild mushroom buns? You simply must try them. Seeing his hopeful gaze, Guju couldn't help but smile. The prince beamed, his heart racing with joy. Wanting to dazzle her, he rushed to order a feast. But his grand surprise quickly became a nightmare. 20 baskets of steaming buns towered before them like a literal mountain. Guju gasped, "Brother, are you raising a pig here?" Bystanders began to whisper and stare in awe. The appetite of youth to eat such a massive amount. Guju worried they'd never finish, but her brother smirked. For me, this is merely a light snack. The crowd stood frozen in absolute shock. How could one young man possess such a bottomless stomach? Juju's face burned with such intense shame / she could have excavated 10 imperial palaces with her toes. She bolted from her seat instantly. I'm done. I'm going to explore. But she turned back with a warning. Finish every single bite. No wasting allowed. Escaping her dense brother, Guju drifted through the bustling streets. As she browsed, a sneering voice cut through the air. Hey, brat, hand over that gold jade pendant. Guju's hand flew to her neck, protecting her treasure. She spun around, her gaze sharp and wary. Her mother had crafted it from her own dowry / during their darkest days in the cold palace. The young thug, seeing her defiance, began to seethe. He stepped forward, trying to crush her spirit. Guju didn't flinch. A cold smirk touched her lips. Liu Pe is already rotting in a dungeon. He can't even save his own skin. Since you love robbing people, why don't you go join him? Zhang Cheng's rage exploded. You little pest, you're dead! But as he lunged, a projectile sword, thwack! A massive bun struck his face. Slash! The first prince had arrived like a guardian deity. He shielded Guju, his voice like thunder. Touch her, and I'll make you regret being born. A wave of pure relief washed over Guju. My brother is a legendary general. He'll protect me. Hearing her thoughts, the prince's cheeks flushed with pride. But the thug roared in a blind fury. Who the hell are you? You're just a kid. How dare you interfere with my business? The prince's eyes turned ice cold. I am the first prince of this empire. Mind your tongue. The thug just cackled with derision. A prince eating at a street stall? What a pathetic, blatant lie. Next, you'll claim that Runt is the 18th princess. He signaled his lackeys to rip the pendant away. The prince's brow furrowed. So you've chosen the hard way. Fine, I'll be happy to oblige. He gently pushed Guju to safety. The thugs charged like wild animals, but the prince didn't even blink. In a heartbeat, the atmosphere shifted. These street rats were nothing compared to the armies he had led. With blinding speed, he pinned them to the dirt. Guju cheered, her eyes sparkling with adoration. Big brother is so cool! The coolest! Hearing her praise, the prince felt like he could conquer worlds. His fists became a blur of righteous fury. One strike, one down. He dismantled the thugs with effortless grace. Guju was absolutely mesmerized. He's incredible. He's crushing them exactly like I hoped. This is so satisfying. Zhang Cheng realized he had poked a sleeping dragon. Terror gripped him, yet he still barked out threats. Just you wait. My father is a high official. You're both dead meat. Joju just laughed. She stuck her tongue out playfully. Go ahead. No one in this world outranks our father. Suddenly, an old woman whispered a frantic warning. Run! You must flee while you still can. Guju frowned. Why? They're the villains. We haven't done anything wrong. The woman's eyes were filled with fear. The Jiang family are monsters who rule these streets. / if you stay, you won't survive the night. The first prince's heart burned with indignation. He hadn't realized such corruption infested the capital. Guju trembled with righteous fury. Brother, they're evil. They have to pay for what they've done. The prince nodded firmly. I won't let these scoundrels escape justice. Soon, the villain's father arrived. Those two were the culprits. Zhang Qingshan's arrogance was suffocating. Relax, your father is here to settle the score. Zhang Qingshan swaggered behind the first prince, dropping a heavy hand on his shoulder. Kid, aren't you going to turn and kowtow? Beg for mercy now, and I might let you live. The prince sneered. Is that so? He crushed the man's wrist. Zhang Qingshan, your son is blind, but surely you recognize me. Recognizing the prince, Zhang Qingshan's face turned ghostly. He nearly lost control of himself in pure, unadulterated terror. First prince! His legs gave out as he collapsed, begging for life. Yet young Chun remained clueless, questioning his father. A thunderous slap sent the boy sprawling. You worthless brat, kneel! Jiang Shan roared, his voice trembling with sheer desperation. You've doomed us both! Zhang Chun, feeling wronged, began a heated argument with his father right in the middle of the street. The first prince's patience snapped. With a dark scowl, he ordered the guards to drag the pathetic duo to the office. Once the trash was cleared, his icy gaze melted into tenderness. He turned to Guju with a gentle, worried look. Guju, were you scared? She offered a sweet smile and shook her head. I'm okay, thank you, big brother. Suddenly, Guju remembered the original story. The prefect was a corrupt snake who took bribes to release dangerous criminals. The first prince, sensing her inner thoughts, was struck by shock. He never imagined an official could be so lawless. Without hesitation, he scooped Guju up. He would personally oversee this case to ensure the law was upheld today. Guju cheered silently. This big brother is so reliable. As they departed, a mysterious, white-haired elder watched from the shadows. Tears glistened in the old man's eyes. A man beside him whispered, Father, we just returned. Now isn't the time. The elder nodded slowly. You're right. We've waited 3 long years. A little longer won't change our destiny. Soon, the prince and Guju arrived at the government office, stumbling right into the prefect's latest web of greed. Just as Guju feared, the prefect was plotting to shield the Jiang family for gold. Only the deputy stood against him. Guju sighed. Though the deputy was a rare man of integrity, his low rank left him powerless to stop the corruption. The first prince's fury erupted. Prefect, your treacherous schemes are loud enough for the whole world to hear. The prefect shuddered, forced a greasy smile, and stammered about a misunderstanding. But the prince wasn't listening to lies. With a brutal kick, he sent the official flying. I am a soldier. I have no patience for your pathetic excuses. He threw the prefect into the dungeons and appointed the honest deputy as the temporary ruler of the office. Guju beamed at the prince's decisive action. She knew their father would surely reward this official's loyalty very soon. The deputy bowed, promising to uphold justice. But as the prefect was dragged away, he shrieked a venomous, defiant threat. You'll regret this, you little rat. Guju's heart skipped. She knew the plot. An assassin would strike this very night. She warned the deputy immediately. When you go home, no matter what happens, stay inside your sedan chair. The official gave a confused, awkward smile and nodded dismissively. Guju knew he hadn't taken her words to heart. The first prince saw her dilemma and gently smoothed her hair. Don't worry, Guju. Then his voice turned cold. I'll have shadows follow him. If he dares step out of that chair, they'll break his legs themselves. That evening, while heading home, the deputy suddenly heard the piercing, soul-crushing cry of an infant from the darkness. His heart tightened. He ordered the sedan to stop, ignoring his servants' frantic pleas to keep moving for safety. As an official, I cannot ignore a child suffering. He stepped out, walking straight into the danger lurking nearby. Suddenly, a heavy blow struck from behind. The deputy fainted instantly. The servant stood frozen in a cold sweat. To their surprise, the attacker wasn't an assassin, but the prince's own man, following his master's orders perfectly. After a few words of instruction, the first prince's man disappeared into a small alley. The next day, he stays confined. If he steps from that sedan, shatter his legs. His ruthless decree left the court breathless. Later that night, while returning home, the deputy prefect's soul was pierced by a haunting infant's wail. His chest tightened. "Stop the carriage," he barked, despite his attendant's frantic pleas to keep moving forward. He refused to cower. As an official, he couldn't abandon a commoner's agony. Turning a deaf ear to warnings, he stepped onto the cold ground, unaware that a lethal shadow was creeping closer through the moonless night. Suddenly, a heavy blow crashed against his skull. Darkness claimed the official instantly, as his servant gasped in horror. Panic surged through the staff. They never dreamed the assassin was an elite warrior serving the first prince. With a final, icy command, the shadow vanished into the labyrinthine alleys. When dawn broke the next morning, the first prince couldn't wait to share the news with Juju. But at the climax, he stopped, teasing her with a grin. Juju stomped her tiny feet in frustration. "Tell me everything, big brother, or prepare for my ultimate tickle attack." Terrified of her secret weapon, the prince surrendered immediately. "Wait, I'll talk. The baby in the alley? It was all a lie." There was no child, only a professional actor hired for a dark performance. Under interrogation, the truth finally spilled out. It was a perfect, sinister scheme. Juju clenched her small fists, wishing she could punch that cunning villain right then and there. The prince offered a reassuring smile. "Rest easy, Juju. Father has already stripped him of his rank and sealed his fate." "And the Zhang and Liu families?" Juju pressed. The prince nodded. Liu Pei was sentenced to death. There was no mercy. Zhong Qingshan faced exile, and their children were sent to the palace as servants. A sense of satisfaction washed over Juju. With the matter settled, she prepared to return. The prince, unwilling to let her go, pleaded for her to stay longer. When she refused, he played his ultimate trump card. "How about a piggyback ride? I'll carry you all the way." Juju's eyes sparkled. Her brother was stronger than the crown prince. This would be fun. But then reality hit her like ice. Clearing her mother and brother's names was urgent. Every second mattered, and she had to return to the palace to prepare. Seeing her resolve, the prince realized the gravity of the situation and personally escorted her back to the palace gates. In a heartbeat, Juju was back at the residence, where the formidable tyrant emperor was already waiting for his favorite child. His face melted into joy the moment he saw her, scooping her into a warm embrace filled with kisses and hugs. But when Juju praised her two brothers, the emperor's jealousy flared. It was as if a vat of bitter vinegar had tipped over. Suddenly, Juju remembered the mission. "Father, I heard your sworn sister, Princess Wen, is returning to the capital today." The air grew heavy. The faces of the emperor and concubine Li paled, the atmosphere thick with the weight of taboos. Juju knew this was dangerous ground, but she wouldn't miss this chance to save her 13th brother from his wrongful fate. Years ago, a banquet turned tragic when Prince Dun fell to poison. A strict investigation had shattered their lives and family. Princess Wen, bribed by the true culprit, had framed the unfavored 13th prince, leading to his dark imprisonment and misery. Her mother was dragged into the mess while Princess Wen vanished like a ghost. But now, the past had finally returned. Juju was determined to unmask the truth and restore her family's honor, even if it meant facing her father's royal wrath. She silently vowed to convince the emperor to reopen the case and right the wrongs of that fateful, bloody night. As Juju's internal monologue raged, the emperor realized there was more to the story. Perhaps the past was far more twisted. He made a sudden, decisive command. "Release the 13th prince at once. We shall investigate this case thoroughly from the start." Overwhelmed with relief, Concubine Li fell to her knees. The emperor's heart ached as he gently helped her from the floor. He begged for details about the incident, but Concubine Li's mind was a blank canvas of trauma. She could remember nothing. The investigation hit a wall immediately. Juju narrowed her eyes. To find the truth, she had to start with Princess Wen. Back then, Wen was desperate, fueled by gold and a life-saving pill for her mother. She was a puppet of greed. Blackmail was likely the only thing keeping her silent. There had to be hidden letters between her and the real killer. If we find those letters, the truth will emerge, Juju thought. Hearing this, the emperor's eyes sharpened with sudden imperial fury. He immediately ordered a total investigation of every piece of correspondence Princess Wen had touched since the tragedy began. Juju stared at her father, impressed. Wow, Daddy is actually acting like a total genius today, she thought with wonder. The emperor felt a twinge of confusion. Only today? But then he smiled, realizing he was no match for Juju's brilliance. Noticing his strange gaze, Juju tilted her head. Daddy? Why are you looking at Juju like I'm a rare treasure? He leaned in, kissing her forehead softly. Because you are precious. Father can't get enough of his cute little daughter. Juju made a face, playfully disgusted. Ugh, since when did my tyrant daddy become so incredibly cheesy and sweet? Concubine Li laughed at the sight. Seeing her mother happy made Juju's heart light, and the emperor's joy followed suit. But time was a luxury. The emperor stood to leave, promising to bring back the justice and answers they deserved. After he left, Juju remembered the gift she'd bought for her mother. It was a token of her love and devotion, but as she reached for her silk pouch, it was gone. She told her mother to wait while she searched. Juju scoured the palace high and low, but the pouch was nowhere. Then she spotted a familiar official holding it tight. It was the deputy head of the hospital. He bowed low. Greetings, 18th Princess. I believe this belongs to you. Juju didn't have time for royal etiquette. Skip the formalities. Just tell me where you found my precious pouch. Give it back, Guju snapped. The deputy head bowed. Forgive me, Highness. I only sought to... The owner! His eyes gleamed. This pouch holds a legendary panacea, a cure for 100 deadly toxins. May I study its secrets? Guju's gaze turned cold. Never. This is a sacred treasure. I was warned. If this falls into wicked hands, it will become a tool for evil. Silenced, the man retreated. Guju snatched her satchel and left, unaware that shadows were listening. Nearby, the scheming Princess Wen cornered her servant. Tell me, she hissed, is the secret cure within our reach? Mother's life hangs by a thread, and our time is nearly gone, the maid whispered. The 18th princess holds the antidote. One's heart stopped. Her? That brat is father's new darling? A sinister smirk curled her lips. If I could, crush her brother years ago, breaking her will be child's play. Alert me when she's vulnerable. I will seize that cure. Meanwhile, the cold-blooded emperor gifted a golden hound to his consort. Yet it was little Guju whose heart soared. Seeing the pup, her eyes shimmered like stars. The loyal hound barked in joy, tail wagging. In her past life, she dreamed of such a companion. Learning this, the emperor felt a sharp pang of guilt for his neglect. Soon, a childish jealousy flared. She loved the dog more than him. But witnessing her radiance, he softened. Later, while Guju played in the lush imperial gardens, the predator appeared. Wen watched from the shadows, a vile grin spreading across her face as she crept closer. Princess? Guju spun, met by a mask of false kindness. I am the Mangdan Grand Consort, a delight. She offered a small wooden box. A rare delicacy from my tribe. Surely you won't refuse. She thrust the gift forward. Guju's blood ran cold. This was one, the viper who had once destroyed her family. A trap was set. No thank you, she snapped. Wen's face hardened, a silent curse hissing through her teeth. Still, the snake persisted. Just one taste, little princess. It's a treat beyond your dreams. When Guju didn't budge, Wen's mask finally shattered. She lunged, seizing Guju's wrist. Repulsed, the girl wrenched free. I said no. Wen's eyes narrowed. The brat knew. The pretense of kindness vanished in an instant. She dove for the pouch. Guju scrambled back, her scream piercing the palace air. Help! Robbery! Suddenly, a golden blur intercepted. Big Yellow stood his ground, snarling at the consort. Terror drained Wen's face. Dignity forgotten, she fled in total panic, with the hound at her heels. She bolted through the garden, toward the imperial study. There stood the emperor and the dowager. Cowering behind them, she wailed, "Save me!" Fearing for the dowager's safety, the emperor barked a command. The dog instantly yielded, dropping to the floor. Wen collapsed in a heap, sobbing crocodile tears. The emperor's gaze was ice. My dog never attacks without reason. What did you do? Wen gasped, her eyes burning with malice as she lied. The girl! I offered a snack, but she turned that beast on me. The emperor didn't believe her. He remembered her past treachery. Now she dared to target his precious Guju. The time for reckoning had come. His eyes pierced her. Where is your proof? Disheveled and desperate, Wen shrieked. Your majesties saw it yourselves. Who else could be at fault? The emperor pulled Guju into a protective embrace and asked, why did he chase her, little one? Before she could speak, Wen barked a sharp interruption. Because she's spoiled and thinks she's above the law. The emperor's fury erupted. Silence! I did not speak to you. Guju's lip trembled, tears welling in her eyes. She tried to rob me. Big Yellow was only protecting me. Wen's face contorted. Preposterous! I am a royal consort. Why would I want a child's pouch? Is she lying? Jojo froze. According to the original novel, the princess's mother is gravely ill, and I hold the miracle cure. The imperial doctor must have leaked the news, but I can't prove it. If I speak, will they see me as some monster? Hearing her thoughts, the emperor slammed the table. Enough! You only came back for that pouch's cure. The prescription that saves your mother is right here. That was your true motive, wasn't it? Princess Wen froze, her face drained of color. Her flawless scheme had been shattered in seconds. Jojo gazed at her father with sparkly eyes. Daddy is incredible! He read her like a book! But wait, how did he know? Can he actually hear what I'm thinking? She wondered. The emperor cleared his throat. The imperial doctor already informed me. Did you expect to escape? Guju finally understood, though she couldn't help but pout. That old doctor really has a big mouth. Meanwhile, across the palace, the busy doctor suddenly sneezed. Is someone talking about me? He muttered. Princess Wen desperately clung to her lies. This is a setup! I'm being framed! Jojo just rolled her eyes. But the emperor was 3 steps ahead and looked down coldly. Bring the evidence, he commanded. These letters prove your secret pact with the true culprit. He hurled the papers at her face. Every line detailed the plot to ruin the 13th prince. Seeing the ink, her composure crumbled. These are fakes! She screamed, her voice trembling with terror. The emperor sneered. Fake? No, the ones you burned were the fakes. These are real. Trapped by the truth, the princess collapsed. The emperor's voice boomed with a final, icy decree. Strip her title! Banish her to Mangdon forever! She is never to set foot here again. As the villain fell, Guju sighed in relief. The nightmare for her brother was finally ending. The 13th prince is innocent, the emperor declared, granting him 10,000 pieces of gold. Helping the weeping concubine Li up, he whispered, Forgive my negligence. You've both suffered far too much. Jojo beamed with joy. I can finally see my brother! Her heart raced with sweet anticipation.